From Harry Hurley Way in the world's playground to the broadcast pioneers of Philadelphia Hall of Fame, you're about to find out why Harry Hurley has been named to the Talkers Magazine list of the 100 most important talk show hosts in the nation. Live from the studios of Town Square Media in Northfield, it's Hurley in the Morning on WPG Talk Radio 95.5 and the WPG Talk Radio app.
7 minutes past the hour. Welcome to the Hurley in the Morning program. Yesterday in Northfield, what an outpouring of love and respect. Frank Campo, what an incredible, well-deserved send-off. The turnout was incredible. And Frank profoundly touched so many lives. So I was not the least bit surprised. Margie and I arrived at maybe, I don't know, a minute or two before 10 o'clock. The place was jammed, and it didn't start till 10. Now, I remember about a week ago, I saw that it was starting at 9 o'clock, but it was changed to 10 o'clock until 12 noon. But we were early, and it was not only completely full, but you had a line that was wrapped from the entry door, and then it goes inside, and then they have, and I've been there before, they have a right-hand turn, then you make a left-hand turn, then you make another left-hand turn, and you make another left-hand turn. You do like a box, and that just allows for the line to be longer and more people inside in the line than if you just ran one straight line. It's smart what they do. And I guess it took, I didn't really time it, but probably 45 minutes to reach Karen and Michael and Matt and Frank's brother, I think Fred, and his wife. The turnout was truly amazing. A who's who turnout. Saw so many people, and I saw a lot of people that I haven't seen in a really long time. It's never the way that you want to see people, though. But we saw a lot of really good people. Great turnout. Family was amazing, and still haven't really processed that this happened. So that was well-deserved for Frank. And that's where we left from here yesterday to be. Oh, my gosh, so much to report. I'll get to Michael Cohen a little bit later, that loser. Wonderful liar, convicted felon, perjurer, disbarred attorney. Just a all-around really good guy. Star witness material. Let me write that down. I don't forget that. Star witness material. I may make a little bit of a comment, but I'm going to hold this for our visit with Kirk this morning. Star witness material. I'm laughing. The House Oversight Committee announced yesterday that they are moving on contempt charges for United States Attorney General Merrick Garland. I find Merrick Garland to be an absolute lowlife, one of the most disgraceful public officials in American history. He is a horrifically biased and terrible attorney general, and he should be found in contempt of Congress. Let me tell you something. I now know, but I knew before. I guess that's just filler words. I've always known. The video and audio of Joe Biden in his interview with the special counsel Robert Hur has to be devastating for Biden. because Merrick Garland is willing to be found in contempt. And then when this is all over, the election, he should be impeached. I don't care that they're not going to be convicted. You know, the national media, I'm amazed at how many media people, they didn't acknowledge that Alejandro Mayorkas was impeached. They said they failed to impeach him. No, they succeeded in impeaching him. The Senate failed to have a trial. How dumb can these people be that report like this? The House of Representatives impeaches. The trial, except if Chuck Schumer, the corrupt Chuck Schumer, is the majority leader. I mean, it's right there. You have to have a trial. But they don't, because we have corrupt criminals in really powerful positions right now. So I want him to be found in contempt of Congress. I want him later, not now. Wait until after November 5th. Impeach his ass. Let him have that on his record for life, for all time, for his family and future heirs to know that he was impeached, that he was found in contempt of Congress, because he's willing to endure all that. And think about if you violate something that they put out. They will haul you away in a second. They'll do some no-knock raid, wreck your place, try to destroy your life. Quote, the House Oversight and Judiciary Committees issued lawful subpoenas to Attorney General Garland for the audio recordings of President Biden's interview with special counsel Hur, which jogs my memory. Can you believe? I mean, Bill Clinton, they videotaped him saying, depends what the meaning of the word is. Bill Clinton's face was purple. Trust me on that. In fact, don't trust me on that. Go look it up. Go do a new search. You will see Bill Clinton. His blood pressure must be like near stroke levels. He was so angry at having to do that interview. And they videoed it. Biden, audio's good. But I'll tell you what, whenever possible, have audio and video. But they're corrupt. So we're lucky they even audio taped it. And for all we know, they've destroyed all that because these are criminals. We have criminals in the highest levels of our government. Corrupt, horrifically bad people that have to be removed. And we'll prove again, we survived them for 4 years. We cannot have them for 4 more years, or we don't have a country. Believe me when I tell you that. Quote, the House Oversight and Judiciary Committees issued lawful subpoenas to Attorney General Garland for the audio recordings of President Biden's interview with special counsel Hur. Yet he continues, meaning Garland, to defy our subpoenas. Quote, these audio recordings are important to our investigation of President Biden's willful retention. You see, understand? Biden's the guilty one here. Trump got slammed and jammed, but they basically said Biden's too unwell to be charged. He should have been charged. And by the way, he still can be charged. And he should be. By January 21st, he should be criminally charged. These, quote, audio recordings are important to our investigation of President Biden's willful retention of classified documents and his fitness to be president of the United States. There must be consequences for refusing to comply with lawful congressional subpoenas, and we will move to hold Attorney General Garland in contempt of Congress. Earned. I don't clap for that often, but that's earned. The vote will be Thursday of this week. Each of these two committees, Oversight and Judiciary, will convene this morning to consider the resolutions. Garland has twice snubbed a subpoena to turn over the recordings. The most recent incident came April 25th, when the Justice Department, in a letter, cited concerns about their potential misuse and the lack of a legitimate legislative or impeachment purpose for their release. Hey, Garland, hey, scumbag, that's not for you to decide. This is an equal branch of government that says they do have a legitimate legislative purpose, and it's not for you to decide otherwise, and you don't get to be a criminal. You can be a criminal, but you don't get away with being a criminal. You know what I think, too? Like, what's his face? Eric Holder. He was also found in contempt of Congress. If you're found in contempt of Congress, you should be disbarred. Then this guy would be breathlessly, I'm so sorry. Here. And I still say, tail between his legs, this guy's going to come running with, I'll give you the audio recordings. I just can't imagine that for Joe Biden, who's going to be thrown out of office in just a couple of months, that this fool will take a contempt of Congress charge. And then he should be impeached as well. A contempt charge voted on by the full House would generate a criminal referral to the United States Attorney's Office in Washington, D.C., which would then weigh whether to prosecute Garland. Now, we know they're not going to, but you still do it. And then guess what? There's going to be a new U.S. attorney in January, because all these other Democrats are going to be thrown in the garbage can. I'm not about revenge. You've never even heard me ever talk about going after the other side. That ends with this administration. I want every single bad actor to be hunted down and prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. Not make up anything, not like these people. Not making it up. Enforcing penalties for what they've done. We'll be back in just a few minutes. Much more important content straight ahead, for this is the Hurley in the Morning program.
In a world full of fake news, AI, and unverified information on social media, where can you get the latest, most accurate South Jersey news? WPG Talk Radio 95.5 and the WPG Talk Radio app. Don't wait for the newspaper to come in the mail. The WPG Talk Radio app is updated around the clock from New Jersey's largest radio news team. Accurate, dependable, reliable. When you need to know, it's WPG Talk Radio 95.5 and the WPG Talk Radio app.
Fox News commentary.
After last year's Rainbow Mafia overload debacle, Target will dial back the Pride displays this year. I consider this another W in our column. I'm Tommy Lahren. More next.
Donald Trump Jr. here. Since January of 2021, the cost of living has increased by 17.9%. You can't get that money back, but you can stop your losses by diversifying into a gold IRA from my friends at Birch Gold Group. To learn more, get your free info kit on gold IRAs by texting the word SHELTER to 989898. That's SHELTER to the number 989898 to get your free info kit from Birch Gold now.
Message and data rates may apply.
Last June, Target went all in and overboard with pride displays, tastelessly promoting junk-tucking underwear and more. This move was met with well-deserved backlash and perhaps even a lesson learned. Because this Pride Month, Target announced LGBTQ adult apparel and home goods will be sold in select stores only based on historical sales performance. That amounts to about half of its 2,000 stores, a drastic dial back from last year's blowout. But this is bigger than Target. It's a win for decency and common sense. Why should big box stores ram the celebration of sexual preference down our throats and parade it in front of kids? We should be able to shop at family-friendly stores and not be forced to navigate adult items based on adult themes at every aisle. Turns out conservative buying power does hold some weight, and we should throw it around more often. I'm Tommy Lahren, and you can watch my show, Tommy Lahren is Fearless, at Outkick.com.
You're waking up with Hurley in the morning on South Jersey's talk station, WPG Talk Radio 95.5. Hurley in the morning.
It tends to make me feel a little bit more intelligent.
WPG Talk Radio 95.5.
I will keep trying to do that. It is 26 minutes past the hour. We ran a little bit long in the first segment, but there's a lot going on. See if you believe what I'm about to tell you or if you think I am making it up. Because I had to double check to make sure that I wasn't getting punked. The Biden administration has publicly declared that they do not see it likely or possible that Israel will achieve, quote, total victory in defeating Hamas. Now, this is disgusting. We have never had anything like this. They're actually undermining Israel, not giving them what they need to win, and then they say it's not likely or possible that they can win? Kurt Campbell, who is a jackass and a U.S. Deputy Secretary of State, he's another one that'll be gone. Boy, I'll tell you, I can't wait. I refuse. God is too great. I refuse to believe that we will have these people for another 4 years. I can't even go there. And thankfully, with every just fiber of my being, with every poll that I see, with every trend that's going on, when you look at the 6 battleground states, Biden won every single one of them. And now he's tied in Wisconsin and pretty much getting smoked in all the others. I said that Nevada was 12 points Trump lead. Apparently it's 13. 10 in Georgia and 7-9 everywhere else. Pennsylvania is a bit closer. And, of course, I'll be awake at 2 o'clock in the morning for when the overnight Democrat ballots get dropped. Every morning I came in and told you won't believe it, 200,000 more, 400,000 more. I mean, it was just unbelievable what was going on. So the United States Biden administration government has publicly stated that it is not likely or possible that Israel will achieve total victory in defeating Hamas. I don't know. Could that be because you're working against them? Is that why you have that premonition? Why don't you work with them and then you wouldn't have to say what you just said? Wow. These are sick people. Sick and getting sicker. How do you think Israel Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu feels when he hears this kind of thing? When this government trashes Israel and calls them genocidal. They did. When all they're doing is going after the terrorists that attacked them. This is why I preface this by saying, and do what I always ask you to do, double check. When I say it and I tell you it's a fact, I still want you to check it. Check it out. You will find out that the Biden administration officially said that they don't see it likely or possible that Israel can achieve total victory in defeating Hamas. I got to see what Kirk Conover has to say about that one coming up next hour. Let's go to the break, and when we come back, every day I come bearing polling data, and I have more to share with you. And unless you want Joe Biden to be president, I have some really good news. I would even say I'd upgrade it. Great news. Coming up next.
This is the Town Square, New Jersey Info and Weather Network.
Hey, thank you. And it is Harry Hurley at exactly 30 minutes past the hour. I have 3 stories that you can follow on our WPG Talk Radio 95.5 app. These 5, and we name them, and we name who the relatives are. These 5 Atlantic City Board of Education members have relatives with school jobs. It tells you a lot about what's going on right now. Egg Harbor Township Fire Chief has passed away. Very sad. And detractors are attacking the record Trump rally.
From the Town Square, New Jersey Info and Weather Network, I'm Chief Meteorologist Dan Zarrow. Our weather will slowly drift downhill today as clouds fill in and rain chances increase. In the meantime, could see peaks of sun this morning, temperatures around 50. We'll see a high of 70 as skies turn cloudy and spotty showers are possible from midday through the afternoon. A few showers around tonight, low 58, and a continuing chance of rain tomorrow. Could be steady or heavy for a time. High comes down to 65. Get weather 24/7 wherever you are. Download our free mobile app today.
Hurley in the morning. WPG Talk Radio 95.5 and the WPG Talk Radio app. You're waking up with Hurley in the morning.
Egg Harbor Township, Ocean City,
Brigantine,
Mays Landing.
WPG Talk Radio 95.5 and the WPG Talk Radio app.
All right, so some stunning polling data. Just in case you didn't hear the news, President Trump leads in 5 of the 6 swing states. Now, keep in mind, if he wins the 5 that he has right now, and say he doesn't win Wisconsin, which, by the way, is a pick'em right now. It's tied. Say he only wins the 5, though. He will be over 300 electoral votes. Over 300. Even if he lost one of these, in addition to Wisconsin, he would still be like 280 some. And if he lost another one, he could still be above 270. You can see why everything points to Trump right now. Arizona. Now, these are all Trump leads, so I don't have to keep saying Trump, I'll give you Trump first. Arizona, 49-42. Georgia, 49-39. Michigan, 49-42. Nevada, 51-38, 13 points. Pennsylvania, 47-44. And Wisconsin, a statistical tie. John McLaughlin. Oh, let me give you one other very stunning item. And if this holds, then it's impossible for Joe Biden to be the president. And believe me, they'll do a lot over the next 5 months to try to turn Trump into a racist, which he's not. In 2020, Biden got 91% of the African American support. Trump, 8%. 2024, Biden. This is a New York Times Democrat poll, by the way. Not even likely voters, registered voters. 2024, African American voters, Biden 63, Trump 23. If he stays at, I think if he stays at even 12%, certainly 15%, and it's over. 20%, 23%, and this could go up. Of course, it could go down as well. So that's interesting. Let me tell you about John McLaughlin, because this guy is good. you've got the pollster brothers, Jim McLaughlin and John McLaughlin, who are polling for President Trump. But see, they don't make it up. They're very good at what they do. I'll tell you what, I heard, oh my God, I couldn't believe it. I thought my ears were going to just like seize or something. Fareed Zakaria from CNN, who I used to like years ago, and then he just became an absolute demagogue, Democrat, whack job. Well, I saw a clip of him yesterday and again this morning. He said that you should be, if you're for Joe Biden, you should be very concerned because Trump performs better than the polling numbers, and that the polling numbers are so terribly bad for Biden. It's a very astute observation, and we've said it over the years. Trump outperforms the polls every single time. The McLaughlin brothers said that the trend is upward for President Trump, even with Trump gaining on Biden in several key blue states. And they said nowhere was Donald Trump's rising popularity in blue states shown more than his rally Saturday night in Wildwood, New Jersey, where an estimated crowd of 100,000 people showed up. And boy, does that have the Democrats. They're going crazy. They're trying to, they tried and they failed. They tried to make a serious news story out of Trump mentioning Hannibal Lecter. I mean, a fictional movie character. They tried so hard. Trump's promoting a cannibal. I mean, they're out of their minds. Didn't work. None of it's going to work. Jim McLaughlin said, quote, that rally was flat out incredible. People were thinking maybe 40,000, maybe 50,000, which would have been an unbelievable number. But I've talked to people on the ground. I've talked to some law enforcement folks that I know down there. They told me that they thought it was well over 100,000 people. Now, let's not forget, Joe Biden won New Jersey. I always say 16 points. It was 15.9. So 16 points in 2020. Remember, it was an all vote by mail election. Hillary Clinton won New Jersey in 2016 over President Trump with 14.2% of the vote. The last Republican, and President Trump mentioned this in Wildwood on Saturday, the last Republican presidential candidate to win New Jersey was, he didn't say the name, I will, George H.W. Bush. President Trump did say 1988. A Siena College poll that was released showed Trump trailing Biden by 9 points in New York. New York. Joe Biden's going to have to spend money in New York, in New Jersey, and other Democrat states. Now, the Siena poll, McLaughlin said, and this is always the way it is, was heavily weighted towards Democrats. Listen to this. They did a poll, and they only polled 22% registered Republicans. How about that? Quote, there may be something going on here, John McLaughlin said. Quote, we already have polls. Gemini did a poll for the Trump campaign where we're running a little ahead in Minnesota and we're within 2 points in Virginia. Quote, so the map is expanding for Donald Trump. And it is. When we come back, one of my favorite legal analysts of all time is Jonathan Turley. I also love the spelling of his name, which if you replace the T with an H, it's my name. He's got a great last name. I wish he was Jonathan Hurley. Then it would even be better. He's got it figured out. I'll share it with you next on the Hurley in the Morning program.
You're listening to Hurley in the Morning.
It's a source I can trust.
WPG Talk Radio 95.5. WPG Talk Radio 95.5. Starting your day the right way with Hurley in the Morning.
It's a refreshing drive to work in the morning.
WPG Talk Radio 95.5.
Hey, thank you. Welcome back. 47 minutes past the hour. Kirk Conover at 7, Chuck Malamud at 8. Dr. Bob Zlotnick today in the 9 o'clock hour. We're going to visit tomorrow with United States Senate candidate Curtis Bashaw. I believe we're going to have Don Purdy after Curtis. We have a great program in store for you tomorrow. Busy. Let me just double check something real quick. Yeah, that is tomorrow. We are just stacked and packed and ready to go. I left one important item out. So before we get to Jonathan Turley, one item out from the pollsters, Jim McLaughlin and John McLaughlin. So they say they're not surprised at all by the latest New York Times Siena poll that shows President Trump leading in all the battleground states. Quote, he, meaning Biden, has a 61% disapproval rating in the battleground states. Nobody is saying that. Nobody is saying that in the media. Biden, 61% disapproval rating in the battleground state. Quote, that's just disastrous for a Democrat running for president. Some of those battleground states, his disapproval ratings among independents were 2/3 and higher. So more than 66%. The New York Times poll has Trump up 7 in Arizona, 10 in Georgia, 13 points in Nevada. And, quote, in those polls, he, meaning Trump, was basically tied among young people and Hispanics. Quote, it's really desperation for Democrats. It's reality. These numbers don't surprise me. I'm seeing these types of numbers for Joe Biden every day. You know, I don't want to forget to mention this. Kamala Harris was giving a speech, and the speech was supposed to be about unity. And all of a sudden, she drops the F-bomb. I'm just at a loss. And now you have Biden. He's going to give, I think it's today, he's going to give a speech on the economy and jobs. Are you kidding me? From the Rose Garden. The job he's done, he's going to give a speech. You know what? And somebody said it in the media, and it was a Democrat. I think it was Axelrod. His pride, because he keeps telling the American people how much money they have and how great the economy is. And that's just not true. People are hurting terribly. Jonathan Turley, as I promised, said that the judge, and that is Juan Merchan, I'll tell you, I seethe over him. He is so bad. He is, in my opinion, so incredibly dishonest. The judge presiding over former President Donald Trump's ongoing criminal trial in New York City could decide the case in the defense's favor by the end of this week. Quote, end quote, said Jonathan Turley, a lawyer and George Washington University Law School professor. Tell you, I'd love to be in a class that he's teaching. He's not a Republican. He's just fair. He's not biased. Trump's former attorney, Michael Cohen, testified yesterday, blah, 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 blah. And, I mean, still, in week 5 weeks of this crap, and they haven't introduced a crime yet. Turley wrote a great piece that was in the New York Post.
Here's what I found.
Look at that. He wrote a piece in the New York Post that Alvin Bragg is, quote, counting on the jury convicting Trump regardless of the evidence. And that's the truth. This is what they've done. They've presented no crime, and they are just presenting salaciousness, all kinds of stuff. None of it a crime. And then they want to tell you, vote guilty on 34 counts. 34 felony counts of falsifying business records. But nothing has been falsified. In fact, it's all been delineated lawfully and transparently. She got paid. Nobody's denying that. She also signed a non-disclosure, which she violated, and she owes Trump now hundreds of thousands of dollars. I've heard as much as $500,000. She hasn't paid it. The Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, which is no conservative court, I mind you, they have upheld it. And she says she hopes she never pays it. She should be locked up for not paying it. Quote, this is Turley again. This is why Bragg likely fears that the judge, not the jury, will decide the case. Now, I want to sidebar because there is more from Turley. I believe that Juan Merchan is corrupt. I believe that a judge that was not corrupt would have already ended this trial, would have never let Stormy Daniels even testify. She had nothing probative value-wise to even add. This is not about the rule of law. This is not about anything other than trying to take down Trump. So, listen, I'd be the happiest person around if Turley is right. I don't believe Juan Merchan. Look, he hasn't granted other things. And look what he's done with this gag order. But Michael Cohen doesn't have one, and nobody else has one, and his daughter is out there. Nobody has gag orders except Trump. All of this is blatantly wrong and unconstitutional. But they don't care because they know in the end Trump's not going to be found guilty of anything. They want him for now in the eyes of the American people. And so that Biden, who's in a lot of trouble in this campaign, can say that he's running against a convicted felon. That's what it's all about. That's all that it's about. They know they're going to get overturned if they get lucky enough to even get a conviction. I wish I knew the mindset of the two attorneys that are on the jury. You can tell how they had very little opportunity. I mean, you get Merchan. I keep trying to find out if it's truly New York law or did he also just put that into effect? Because I never heard of only 10 preemptory challenges. That's all they got. So there's two attorneys. You were at the mercy of Juan Merchan. Listen, he almost let someone on the jury that had stuff on social media showing Trump in an orange jumpsuit, wishing for him to be in jail, all kinds of rabidly anti-Trump stuff. And then he finally, after the defense said, Your Honor, look at this, he finally said, yes, I guess that's a little bit too far to say that they could be, objective. He almost put that person on this jury. So that there's nowhere in America other than New York, parts of California, Washington, D.C., where this trial shouldn't even be happening. It's so bad. It's so wrong. But they get away with it, and they don't care. Even if they don't get a conviction, look, they're going to look really bad. If Trump beats all 34 charges with either a acquittal, which it should be, I just believe there's going to be people on the jury that will not vote to acquit Trump. I'm hoping there's at least one that will. I can't imagine that there will be 12. But the case is that bad, though. Trump said at the Wildwood rally on Saturday that, quote, I'm going to be indicted into the White House. Great line. He talked about how he has been indicted more than Al Capone. It's true. Al Capone got just a handful of indictments. They got him on tax evasion. Quote, in fact, I heard they were going to do a couple of things, and they said from Washington, please don't do it. We're indicting him into the White House. He's going to be indicted into the White House. They said don't do it. It is true. You have James Carville and a number of other people saying, hey, what we're doing right now isn't working. And Carville is pretty, blunt and pretty smart about stuff. He said, what we're doing right now isn't working. Let's do something else. I think his exact words were, what we're doing right now isn't working. Why don't we try something else? Good advice from the Ragin' Cajun. Very good advice. All right, when we come back, Kirk will join the program. What did I say I left open that I want to open with Kirk? I certainly want to talk about the trial. I want to talk about the United States government actually announcing a U.S. deputy, they call him, not assistant, U.S. Deputy Secretary of State Kirk Campbell said that the Biden administration they do not see it likely or possible that Israel will achieve, quote, total victory in defeating Hamas. So, and that's in the Palestine enclave of Gaza. Well, they're trying to stop them from winning. What a game that is. You hurt them everywhere, call them genocidal, don't give them what they need, and then you say you don't think they can win? We have a lot to unpack. Coming up right after the break, Chuck Malamut, all about your financial matters. Interesting things to talk about with Chuck this morning, some of them that do spill over geopolitically. And then the president and the CEO of Atlantic Prevention Resources, Dr. Bob Zlotnick, on the Hurley in the Morning program. Don't go away. We'll be back in just a little bit. Don't go away.
WPGG Atlantic City, WENJ HD3 Millville, a Town Square media station. Everything you need to know in 6 minutes starts now. From Harry Hurley Way in the world's playground to the broadcast pioneers of Philadelphia Hall of Fame, you're about to find out why Harry Hurley has been named to the Talkers Magazine list of the 100 most important talk show hosts in the nation. Live from the studios of Town Square Media in Northfield, it's Hurley in the Morning on WPG Talk Radio 95.5 and the WPG Talk Radio app.
Almost 7 minutes past the hour. Thanks for waking up early in the morning. Let's make this count. A lot to pack in this hour with former New Jersey Assemblyman Kirk Conover, who with Nancy would have been with 100,000 of his best friends in Wildwood, New Jersey, but they were celebrating their anniversary, so that was the only thing that kept them away. They were there 4 years ago at the Great Wildwood Gathering. This was basically more than 10 times bigger than that. And that was over the moon fantastic. 10,000. I can't say 10, but more than 9,000 inside, because that's all it holds. And they were very strict about that. And believe me, they weren't going to go beyond what the building is allowed to have, with fire suppression, fire safety, and the like. And there were over 5,000 or 6,000 people outside. This was 100,000 plus. And that must be true because the Democrats are going ballistic, crazy, trying to trash the crowd. So, it's every bit what has been advertised. And look, I think her name is Lisa Fagan, the spokesperson for the city of Wildwood. They're not Trump supporters or anything. They're not making up a crowd size that could be disproven. You've got the crazy opposition that realize that the optic was 100,000 plus with Trump and Biden with about 3 people in his basement in Delaware. Enter the scene, Assemblyman Conover. So, Kirk, give us your observations from afar because you were not there.
Well, it was absolutely phenomenal watching it on television. There was no question there was, 100,000 people there. And you knew there had to be 100,000 people when you saw the left-wing media, immediately try to downplay it. And what I found funny was they're downplaying it and saying, well, there was probably only 50,000. Well, look at that number,
Right. Their degrade of it is still a spectacular number. They're not saying it wasn't 100,000, it was 5 people. They're copying to 50,000 because it was that big. And the contrast to Joe Biden, who we know, the campaign, and the word has come out, because he is so gaffe-prone and disastrous when he's out campaigning, they're now swapping their strategy for small outings or whatever you want to call them and very few words from Biden. This is what, this is I guess you would call it Maximus versus Minimus. That's the campaign, Kirk.
Yeah, they're limiting Biden to 15 minutes speaking, trying to keep him on teleprompter. And there were so many moments that were, pure Trump. He said, have you ever tried to read the teleprompter with the wind? They sway back and forth. So he just went, forget the teleprompters. He spoke from his heart. And, it was a visual spectacular. It was unbelievable. Watching it, there was no way anybody tuning in could see anything but this is a phenomenon. This is, Trump populism at its peak, and there's no stopping him. Nancy came up with a great line. She said, he's got to win too big to rig.
Well, that's Trump's line. Trump coined that.
And that's what's going to happen.
Yeah. Now, let me ask you, Kirk, 6 battleground states, all won by Joe Biden in 2020 in the zombie apocalypse, all vote by mail election that they rigged. Arizona, 49-42. Georgia, 49-39. Michigan, 49-42. Nevada, 51-38. Pennsylvania, 47-44. Wisconsin, a statistical dead heat. If that holds, then there is no mistaking. There is no doubt. Nothing else could change it. Trump would become the 45th and 47th president of the United States. I know it's still months out, but your thoughts about the battleground polling that incidentally wasn't even likely voters, so Trump's lead is even bigger. Trump always outperforms the polling, so you have that factor, and that is just simply something we can cite as fact on that. and it's a Democrat poll on top of all that. Your thoughts?
Well, my thought is it's not surprising. The economy and the kitchen table issues that people face every single day are still grinding on them. This persistent inflation, the slow growth in the economy, the massive illegal immigration that's distorting the labor market. And, by the way, the massive influx of illegal migrants also drives inflation because they create demand for goods and services, and they're bankrupting, local governments. All these things add up to why in the world would you ever vote for Biden unless you're just a, left-wing loon? Put on top of it the climate cult regulations that they're trying to put on, gas stoves and appliances in your own home. What an invasion of privacy and consumer choice. And every regulation and every interference with the free market, that creates inflation because it disrupts competition. So there's all these factors that add up. And I'm like, why wouldn't Trump be leading everywhere?
Let me add something to this for your comment. President Biden, I don't say that very often because I don't think he is the president. Biden will deliver a speech, I think it's today at around 11:15. He's always late, so probably won't be 11:15. He's delivering a speech, though, on the economy and jobs from the Rose Garden, and I think he's going to mention he's going to try to be Trump. He's increasing tariffs, certain tariffs on China from 25% to 100%. I also hear they're going to be not mentioning it in this speech, but doing something at the border, which they're going to try to be Trumpian there. Can you do something for 3.5 years and try to fake out the American people right before the election? Can you thread that needle? Can you pull that off?
In reality, I don't think they can, but the danger is that they've got the Mockingbird media on their side, and they will try to, indoctrinate the American people that, Biden hasn't been what he's been the past 3 years.
Right.
He hasn't been this left-wing, basically authoritarian, top-down government guy that, controlled by the Obama bots that are in his administration.
Have you heard, Kirk, that Biden, in a national interview, I think it was with Erin Burnett, but it doesn't matter because what I'm sharing, he did say, he said the polling data is wrong.
That's easy to say.
I know. Kirk, hold it right there. Let's leave on a chuckle. It's a great answer. It's exactly right. And I guess if he's winning, it's going to be spectacularly accurate. But I don't think he's going to be leading very much because he's just been a terrible president. And people are hurting, and this is their opportunity to share and to have their will be felt, and it will come in the form of a pink slip with Joe Biden being fired, Kamala Harris throwing the F-bomb at some kind of alleged unity event. What that is all about, anybody's guess is as good as mine. More with Kirk Conover right after this. It is the Hurley in the Morning program.
Hurley in the Morning.
They stick to the facts.
WPG Talk Radio 95.5.
Waking up on the right side. This is the Sean Hannity Morning Minute.
This is a failure of our justice system on a spectacular level. You might as well take the Constitution of this great country and shred it because it's meaningless if the law is going to be applied this way. And this is what lawfare is. This is not equal justice under the law. It's not equal application of our laws. A witch hunt doesn't even begin to capture the spectacular nature of the Democrats' efforts to destroy this man at any cost. But it does seem to be backfiring, doesn't it? not going particularly well.
From coast to coast, from sea to shining sea, it's the Sean Hannity Show.
Hey, everybody, your friend Sean Hannity here with a message that is all about your safety. Now, when it comes to protecting yourself, your loved ones, well, it's not about having a firearm. It's about understanding the continuum of force philosophy. Now, picture this. A situation arises where you or a loved one are threatened. Now, instinct may drive you to reach for a lethal means immediately. Now, what if there was a way to effectively defend yourself, de-escalate a situation without the irreversible consequences of deadly force? Enter Byrna, B-Y-R-N-A. It is the less lethal pistol launcher equipped with tear gas and kinetic ammo to incapacitate attackers for up to 40 minutes. Byrna is legal in all 50 states. No background check is required and can be shipped right to your door. Now, Byrna is proudly American, manufactured in Fort Wayne, Indiana. Just go to Byrna.com/Hannity. Right now, you'll get 10% off. That's BYRNA.com/Hannity.
Starting your day the right way with Hurley in the morning on South Jersey's talk station, WPG Talk Radio 95.5. You're listening to Hurley in the morning.
Established, reputable.
WPG Talk Radio 95.5.
Hey, thank you. Welcome back. Now, I didn't even get to read it. It was on my watch real quick, but I'm going to predict what Bob Progner wrote to me. It just flashed very, very fast, and the screen is small. I think he wrote, I'm going to look at it, but I'm going to make a little Pocket Kreskin prediction. I saw the words, Biden is right about the polls, meaning the polls are wrong. And I think what Bob is saying is that he's actually trailing by more than these Democrat polls. But let me now look at it. Hold on. Now I've got the H phone. Biden is correct. The polling is wrong. However, it's even worse in reality for Biden. Trump always outperforms the polls. And if Bob was listening, I said those exact words. So obviously, Bob, I concur with what you're saying. But I didn't point out the part that you said first, though, that Biden is correct. Yeah, that's a good one. Because whenever we can agree with Joe Biden, I want to be able to do that. I want to be fair. Joe, you're right. From your basement, you're right. The polls are wrong. You're not losing Nevada by 13. You're losing by even more. The polls are, in fact, wrong. They're too good. They're too kind to you. You're actually losing by more. Great answer. Also, too, Kirk, earlier this morning, I raised the issue before you arrived that President Trump's support with African Americans was 8% in 2020. Biden was at 91% African American vote. Biden right now is at 63%. We're talking about a precipitous drop of almost 30 points. Trump is at 23%. That's the highest African American support for a Republican candidate since 1964. Kirk, there's something going on here, my friend.
Yeah, I truly believe it's a phenomenon. It's a major shift. I think Trump's populism is going to change the electoral map, and it's going to change the demographics of support, the base of support. He's truly revolutionized the Republican Party.
Well, think about this, Kirk. You're talking about a Republican leading the younger demographics, 18 to 34, if you want to expand it, 18 to 49. He's either going to win or push even Stephen with the Hispanic vote. I think he's going to win the Hispanic vote. I mean, these are incredible numbers.
It could result in a Reagan-type landslide. If you look back, Carter was supposed to be up by 5 points the week before the election was held. And then on Election Day, which, that was my first election, there were people lined up in the pouring rain everywhere. And I remember the late, great Fritz Heinemann said to me, people aren't lined up in the rain to vote for someone. They're voting against Carter. And I think that's what you're seeing here. I mean, there's just no way that Biden has put together a record that deserves re-election. And on top of it, you have a total straight-up playbook. Here's what happened 4 years under Trump. Here's what's happened the last 3.5, 4 years under Biden. Which record would you rather live under?
And that's what's happening. People are doing that. There's nothing sophisticated about it. It doesn't require explanation. You know how you felt then. You know how you feel now. This has been my mantra from the beginning. Only once before in American history have you had the opportunity to actually vote for the immediate past two presidents and decide which one did a better job. Honestly, when you look at everything, and I'm not even just being a Trumpian, fanatical supporter or anything like that. If you look at the condition of the world where Trump left it, there was no Afghanistan blowing up. Women still had rights there and could drive and could go to school and could, walk around and not have to be with a man to be outside and didn't have to be all covered up. They could live freely. And it's a tragedy because a young generation that's of majority age now didn't know that old way of living there. And of course, we still have Americans there. Then we have what's happened with Russia, Ukraine. We have Hamas attacking the terrorist attacks on Israel. We have Biden financing Iran's terrorism, the energy debacle that he has created, and, of course, the misery that he has created with Americans in terms of food costs and energy costs and everything. Did I say one thing that's not true, Kirk?
No, it all adds up to a very, very worrisome and troublesome atmosphere to live under. People are tired of, the wokeism and DEI and the ESG.
Kirk, you can't even graduate from college. They're canceling them all, some of them being canceled in mid-progress when they're underway. Nobody wants to live like this.
No, and the majority of people are waking up. They're feeling it. They're seeing it, and they don't like the world, the Biden world that they're seeing, and it's all from his policies from day one. He knocked the props out from under the economy with his executive orders on day one, which stifled the energy independence that we had. And energy is the backbone of our economic growth. It's the backbone. It's what made this country the biggest economic superpower in history.
By the way, this is why Doug Burgum, who President Trump really showcased in Wildwood, him, his wife by name, gave him a big speech right before he was coming out, touted him in terms of his energy prowess, and said, get ready for something. So he's either going to be the VP running mate or he's going to be the Secretary of Energy. Something's happening there, Kirk.
Yeah, I felt that too. North Dakota led the way. Back in 2008, the left-wing media and economists were all saying, "Oh, peak oil, we've peaked out. It's just going to decline." And we were producing about 5.5 million barrels a day, and North Dakota led the way. They allowed people in there to do fracking. And with the shale, and all of a sudden, now we're doing 13 million barrels a day, and it should be a lot more.
And it will be because Trump is going to drill, baby, drill. He mentioned something. I mean, I knew they were an energy producer, but President Trump really underscored, highlighted that they're one of the biggest energy producers in the world.
Absolutely. They produce more energy than most of them, all the Middle Eastern states that, are, a part of OPEC, except for Saudi Arabia.
Kirk, let's get the bottom of the hour break on time, which will go now. When we come back, my question to you is your take on Michael Cohen, Alvin Bragg's star witness, the liar, the convicted felon, the perjurer, the disbarred attorney, Michael Cohen, day one. And for those listening, he'll be back on the stand at 9:30 this morning. I cannot wait for cross-examination. Cannot wait. We'll get Kirk's take on Michael Cohen coming up next on the Hurley in the Morning program.
This is the Town Square, New Jersey Info and Weather Network.
Even a few clicks before 7:30 that we're running not only on time but ahead of time. I'm Hurley in the Morning with Kirk Conover. I have 3 stories that you can follow on our WPG Talk Radio 95.5 app. These 5 Atlantic City Board of Education members have relatives with school jobs, and we name all the names. Check it out. An EHT, Egg Harbor Township Fire Chief, has passed away. Terrific man after 30 years plus of service. And detractors are attacking the Trump rally.
From the Town Square, New Jersey Info and Weather Network, I'm Chief Meteorologist Dan Zarrow. Nice start to your Tuesday morning with scattered clouds overhead and temperatures on either side of 50 degrees. We're topping out at 73 today. Peaks of sun this morning, then clouds thicken up with spotty showers possible starting around midday through this afternoon. A few showers tonight, low 58. Continuing chance of rain tomorrow, could be steady for a time, high 65. Showers may linger into Thursday morning too. Get weather 24/7 wherever you are. Download our free mobile app today.
New Jersey voters.
You're waking up with Hurley in the Morning on South Jersey's talk station, WPG Talk Radio 95.5 and the WPG Talk Radio app. Hurley in the Morning.
Harry Hurley is the only person that can make sense of what's happening in Atlantic City.
On WPG Talk Radio 95.5.
I accept the challenge. It is 34 minutes past the hour. Kirk Conover, time is yours.
Well, you talk about this trial in New York. I mean, How can anybody take the testimony of a serial perjurer?
And a federal judge called him that, Kirk.
Yeah, I mean, and the guy obviously has a vendetta.
Yes.
He expected in his own mind that somehow he was going to be attorney general under Trump. I mean, come on.
Yeah, I think he would have loved that, of course. He pitched this special counsel attorney to the president that he wanted. And Trump not only didn't give him that, he purposely did not bring him to the White House.
Yeah, I mean, this was a guy that Trump hired out of necessity to deal with, some of the, how should I put it, the nasty underbelly of the New York construction scene. So he was not like your top shelf guy. He was someone that, knew how to, roll around with the lowlifes.
Right. In other words, he's not the kind of guy you're proud of. He's not the kind of guy you would have in your inner circle, and he's not the kind of guy that you would bring to your administration.
No. And, unless the jury is so tainted, his testimony is not going to move the needle. And I only say that from looking at the legal experts that have come on TV, and they're saying that he didn't change a thing. So
let me tell you how bad they are. I'll put Jen Psaki on the table here for your reaction, Kirk. She wrote a book, and in the book, she says that Joe Biden never looked at his watch during the dignified transfer of service members who were killed. Now, of course, he did look at his watch. He's busted looking on his watch. There's video and still photography of him busted looking at his watch. But she wrote that knowing she's a liar, because they think that they are liars who lie about lying, and that you're allowed to be liars who lie about lying because you'll be protected. So she says for future editions of her book and for the e-book edition, she'll correct it going forward. They are willing to lie about everything. And Hillary and Obama did the same thing when they were blaming what happened at with Ambassador Stevens and our Special Forces heroes being mowed down. And as you remember, paraded. Stevens was drugged through the streets. I mean, it's unbelievable. And they lied and blamed it on a video. Remember?
Oh, yeah. And Susan Rice, she went on all 5 morning talk shows on Sunday morning and lied on every one of them.
That's right. And she paid a lifetime price because she can never be confirmed for any position. The only positions she will ever be able to have are ones that do not need confirmation.
Right. But she managed to get in 3 years as Joe Biden's special advisor.
Right. But again, a hack appointed position that did not require any type of, Senate approval.
But that's who he's taking advice from, right?
Oh, of course. Hey, Kirk, I love this one, and I want to get it in before the final break. Harrison Butker, who you know is the Kansas City Chiefs kicker, and he's a great one, by the way. He called in a commencement address that he delivered. You talk about courage. He called Joe Biden delusional, and then he hit him straight on with Biden having, the audacity to make the sign of the cross on his chest when he was at an abortion event. Your reaction?
The evil hypocrisy of Biden and his minions are just astounding to me. The fact that they come out and they want no limits on abortion. RFK Jr., same thing. He says, it should be up to the woman and her doctor, no government interference.
I think RFK is talking about abortions up until, the baby's born.
I know. Oh, well, Obama
he had it even after the baby's born. I mean, the Born Alive Act. I mean, how sick? I mean, look, we can have a debate in this country if you are for, abortion until a certain number of weeks or something. How could anyone ever support killing a full-term baby? How is that not infanticide, Kirk? How is that not murder?
In my mind, it would be. I mean, it's what is the prime directive of having a government is to protect innocent people from harm. That's the prime directive.
How effective is the Democrat sham, scam? You know it's coming, Kirk. And you know me. I don't lie on this program. It worked in the midterm election. There was no way they could keep the House. But boy, did they keep it close. And they did keep the Senate, which they would have lost. What a different America this would be if Biden could not get judges confirmed of his choosing, and if the House would have had the 4 dozen majority Republican advantage that it should have had. But they did abortion. They leaked the decision, the Dobbs decision. They didn't care if it got people killed. They don't care because they'll burn the house down to rule the ashes. They leaked that decision. Do you notice we still don't have who did that, Kirk? And we still don't know whose cocaine, if it's Joe Biden's cocaine, if it's Hunter Biden's cocaine, whoever's cocaine it is, they know whose cocaine it is. But it's amazing. They can figure all these things out, but we don't know. There was 20 people that could have leaked the abortion decision. You're telling me they don't know who did it or didn't or couldn't know who did it? This is the country we live in.
Yeah, and the worst part about that whole thing is the fact that John Roberts supposedly is, a conservative.
Yeah, he's a bum.
he could have got to the bottom of it right away. And
he didn't want to get to the bottom of it.
Right. They're gonna be banging that drum, and not only that, but they're going to be saying, we Republicans want to cut Social Security and Medicare and this and that. The old playbook, they're going to try it. But I'm telling you, Trump has a mystique about him. He's got a track record to run on, and people are not feeling anything for Biden.
Well, I totally agree. And even if Biden was a stronger candidate, Trump would still beat him this time. That was a zombie election. It was an all-vote-by-mail election, and Biden still barely won the election. There's no way he's going to win this time. It's just, I always have said, we just have to make sure the win is so massive that they cannot cheat and win. But I'll tell you, I'll give you an analogy. I don't know if you're going to buy it, but I'm selling it. And I'm not comparing Chitterelli to Trump, but to an extent. When Jack Chitterelli was on the ballot, Republicans had a tremendous election. 2 years later, when Jack Chitterelli was not on the ballot and Trump wasn't on the ballot and they were left, to fend on their own, it was a bad election for Republicans. Trump on this ballot is absolutely huge, Kirk.
Yeah, he's got the momentum, and rightfully so. I mean, you look at the 4 years that we had. We had a robust economic growth, low inflation, energy independence, peace in the world, Abraham Accords in the Middle East. I mean, it was just, it started at Mar-a-Lago when he was having dinner with Xi and launched 59 missiles into Syria.
Yes.
From that point forward, nobody wanted to mess with Trump.
And he told Putin, those colorful spheres, those buildings? He said, you go and touch Ukraine, and I am blowing them off of the face of the earth. And and Putin was like, you're kidding, right? He said, no, I'm not kidding. And Putin didn't mess with Trump either. But there's absolutely no fear, no care, no concern. They know that Joe Biden, he's not even a paper tiger. Kirk, at least a paper tiger is a paper tiger. He's less than that.
Yeah, he's Walter the puppet.
There you go. He's Weekend at Bernie's, right down to the aviator sunglasses and the strings pulled from his back. Kirk continues after this. Kirk Conover, Hurley in the morning, 44 minutes past the hour. Back in a few.
People all over the Jersey Shore have found the easiest way to stay connected to South Jersey's talk station. It's the WPG Talk Radio app. Read free, unlimited South Jersey news. Listen to your favorite talk shows. Send us breaking news tips and more. The WPG Talk Radio app is powered by Smokers Haven. You'll find the finest selection of cigars at any of their 5 locations. Stop in and let them help you find the perfect cigar to pair with your life. SmokersHavenNJ.com. Listen at home or in the office on your smart speaker. Just say, play WPG Bible. Hurley in the morning.
Not only the news, but perspective too.
WPG Talk Radio 95.5.
And we are back. It's 48 minutes past the hour with Kirk Conover. It is the Hurley in the Morning program. Thanks for waking up, Hurley in the Morning. Kirk, you took a flurry of questions from me. What's on your plate?
Well, I think it's important to always point out how much damage to this economy, these policies, these top-down elite Democrat policies have done, the damage they've done and the missed opportunities that people have. Everybody wants to be prosperous. They want to leave the world a better place for their children, and they want their children to do better than they did in life. And when you have all this government interference under the guise, whether it's under the guise of, climate change, electric vehicle mandates, all these top-down government, we know better for you than you know for yourself, all these policies distort economic decisions that people make. You've got artificially driven spending with these horrible spending bills that they put in place, totally unnecessary. We were recovering from the pandemic shutdowns very nicely, and yet Biden had to, $4.5 trillion of spending financed by the Fed with digital dollars, devaluing our currency, which created the inflation.
Yeah, it is so true, Kirk. We were doing very, very well, even better and faster than I thought was possible based on what was done, shutting down the economy and such the way that they did. And I'll tell you what I don't want to hear again. I have, you know me for a long time, Kirk. I have patience for other views. I don't always think I'm right. I mean, I believe what I say, is right, but I'm always open if, somebody says it better or does it better, to always take a fresh look at something. I don't want to hear Joe Biden ever say again, but unfortunately, he's going to say it because all he can remember are things from long ago. He doesn't remember that he's even president. So we're going to have to constantly hear, and I've heard it so many times that I've committed it to memory. And I'm going to throw up in my mouth a little bit right now for saying it, but I don't want to hear him ever say again, my father told me that we just need just a little more at the end of the month, and just a little more, just to have a little bit more. And he just keeps repeating it again and again and again. And then he said, we're going to build an economy from the bottom up and the middle out. I'm so sick of him saying that. It's not working, Joe.
No, it's not. And bottom up, middle out. I mean, that's all just rhetoric. The economy's built by capital and labor. You combine capital and labor, you create wealth.
And risking capital, where a business owner or entrepreneur that's willing to take a look at opening a business, let's say, risks that because of the potential upside, the reward. Biden wants to take all that away and punish people that are successful. And when you punish the job creators, okay, I'll close that business, or I won't open that other business. And therefore, he hurts the very people that he says he champions for.
Right. It misdirects capital investment. And people make, a lot of these big corporations, they go along with a lot of this stuff because they think they have to. But basically, combining capital and labor to create wealth is not bottom up, middle out, or top down. It's a combination of all of it. The capital typically comes from people at the top, and the labor comes from people in the middle or in the lower part of the economy, and that's a perfect balance, and that's what has to happen. And you cannot have all these burdensome regulations, irrational mandates such as the electric vehicle mandate, the so-called clean energy mandate with the windmills destroying our ocean. You can't have all these different things that distort the flow of capital and job creation. And I saw an analysis over the weekend. If you take the raw numbers of the actual number of people in the labor force and the actual number of people that are, quote, unemployed, the unemployment rate is much higher than what they're advertising. Correct. So it's been a textbook case of, a top-down, authoritarian run economy, and you see the results. 1.6% growth in the GDP, massive inflation, energy costs running wild. All these things are because the Democrats think they can run the economy better than the free market.
Isn't it Not a coincidence. Obama, Biden, very low GDP. Trump, very robust GDP, and of course low inflation, and wages, were healthy, and people had enough money to pay their bills and to buy a home if they wanted, and interest rates were low, and everything was good. Energy costs were low, and then you get Biden, and look what you get. These are not coincidences, Chuck. This is the difference in philosophy of governance.
I appreciate the compliment. You just called me Chuck.
Oh, I'm sorry. Chuck is coming up next. I was thinking about it. Thank you, Kirk.
No, but you're right. I mean, it's a contrast, and if professors of the right economics textbooks were actually unbiased, they would have chapters about what's going on. The contrast between relying on the marketplace and relying on big government. And I look at it as, opportunity lost. He has implemented policies that basically have taken opportunities for prosperity away from the people.
And this is why the young voters, the young people in this country, they despise Joe Biden. I mean, he's ruining their lives with what he's done. If you already own your home, you can handle this guy for 4 years, and then he goes away for the rest of your life. These youngsters that are trying to start out, they can't buy a home. Everything costs a fortune. Not only can't they buy a home, but their rent is over the moon because of supply and demand, and because they can't buy. They're stuck with whatever. How much is it? $2,800 a month? Oh my God! I got This is crazy. What's going on, Kirk? 3 minutes before we run out of show, let me bring this up. Jonathan Turley, who I'm a huge fan of, I think he's wrong about this. He's right if it was a dispassionate judge that wasn't corrupt and wasn't a Democrat operative, and that's what Merchan, in my opinion, is. So I don't see this happening, but it should happen. When this is all over and they eviscerate Michael Cohen, if they get their chance on Thursday, there is no trial on Friday. The president will be at his son's graduation. So if it's Thursday, or if they get done today with Michael Cohen, the prosecution side, and they get their chance to do the cross-examination, it'll happen soon. When, we don't exactly know. Could be by the end of the week. By Thursday, it would have to be. And they're going to eviscerate him. And then they're going to make a motion when they rest. And their motion is going to be that His Honor should dismiss this case. And he should dismiss this case. But I predict that he will not dismiss this case. Turley thinks that he will, or that he could. But I think he's leaving out what you and I know, and that is the hyper-political nature of this judge. Look, he let Stormy Daniels testify. I don't see him dismissing this case, although he should. What is your opinion on this?
I don't think he will. They've made 2 prior motions to dismiss, and he just flippantly, threw it out like in 2 minutes. Trump's attorneys barely had the final sentence out when he said, "No, we're not dismissing the case. Don't keep going." So
and it was wanted a mistrial. I mean, and he created the mistrial and wouldn't grant it.
Yeah, it's a political show trial, and it'll continue, and the American people will see right through it, as you were talking about. In the 6 o'clock hour, they're going to indict him into the White House.
Yeah, he was saying that, which I think that is just fantastic. Kirk with a K at the beginning, K at the end. Kirk, 30 seconds, closing comment.
Well, I'm waiting for Trump make the movie reference in speaking about the polls and Joe Biden, quoting Ricky Bobby.
Talladega Nights.
If you ain't first, you're last.
Oh, I love it. Kirk, thanks for a great visit.
All right, Harry. Always a pleasure to be on the number one program in South Jersey.
Have a great day, my friend. Thank you, sir. He is Kirk Conover. I am Early in the Morning, Chuck Malamut. All about your financial matters. Coming up next, Dr. Bob Zlotnick making a house call. Doctors still make house calls under the right circumstances right here on the Early in the Morning program.
WPGG Atlantic City, WENJ HD3 Millville, a Town Square media station. Everything you need to know in 6 minutes starts now. From Harry Hurley Way in the world's playground to the broadcast pioneers of Philadelphia Hall of Fame, you're about to find out why Harry Hurley has been named to the Talkers Magazine list of the 100 most important talk show hosts in the nation. Live from the studios of Town Square Media in Northfield, it's Hurley in the Morning on WPG Talk Radio 95.5 and the WPG Talk Radio app.
We're back. It is 7 minutes past the hour. Chuck Malamut is the managing director and leads his team, the Malamut Group, at Morgan Stanley's Northfield, New Jersey office. To reach Chuck and his team, 609-383-2010 for all of your financial planning needs. The following program is presented and sponsored by Chuck Malamut, a financial advisor at Morgan Stanley. The information, views, and opinions expressed on this broadcast are those of Chuck Malamut and do not necessarily reflect those of Morgan Stanley or its affiliates. They are current as of the date of this broadcast, subject to change without notice. Neither the information provided nor any opinion expressed herein constitutes a solicitation for the purchase or sale of any security. This presentation is for informational purposes only. Morgan Stanley Smith Barney, member SIPC. Chuck Malamut, welcome home.
Good morning, Harry. How are you today?
Or should I say Kirk?
Kirk with a K and a K, front end and the back end. I mean, you guys made me chuckle. There's no doubt about it.
I know.
I think Kirk was kind of impressed that you called.
My love for you, I was calling him you 5 minutes before your show starts.
Well, I guess, Harry, look, you're focused on moving the show on and getting on to the next one, and, you're just a busy guy.
Hey,
that's what happens.
So are you.
So, Harry, it's crazy a little bit what's going on in the market right now. As I got ready and did all the show prep, the first 7-8 items we're going to talk about today aren't particularly great news. But at the end of the day, the market, keeps moving, in the right direction, which is just pretty remarkable.
The Dow has been on like a winning streak, right?
The Dow had
like 7 days in a row or something?
It was up 8 days in a row. And just yesterday, it broke that 8-day winning streak. This morning, pre-market, the indices were up ever so slightly. And we'll get into this a little bit. 8:30, we have PPI. Tomorrow, 8:30, CPI. And I think everybody's just sort of waiting around to see how those numbers come. And the market will react, accordingly. But if you kind of put it all in perspective, if we look at last week, U.S. stock markets, built on the strength, Harry, they came out in previous weeks. Core April employment, we did chat about that a little bit last week, and it is on the agenda today. Weekly jobless claims, and we're going to talk about that in a minute as well. Highest level that we've seen in quite some time. So maybe the employment market is at the point where it's going to allow the Fed to start lowering rates once they're convinced that inflation is moving back to target. So
Chuck, I know we're going to get into the weekly jobless claims, but just a general question on this. Why is it softening right before the summer season? You would think it would be gangbusters right now.
Well, Harry, I think and I think you said it ever so well on numerous occasions, you'd have to be really careful in interpreting, what these reports represent. I mean, think about the weekly jobless claims, we can put to the side for a second that the indices, year to date, S&P up 10, Dow up 5, NASDAQ up 9. leadership changes with top sectors, communication services, the number one sector. We've talked about the importance of the market widening out. And if you look at the top three sectors, communication services has been in that number one slot for most of the year. Utilities have come out of nowhere. I mean, now all of a sudden utilities are the second best sector, year to date up 13.5%. Energy is in the third spot at 13%. On the flip side, real estate is the only losing sector, down about 5%. Consumer discretionary and healthcare up anywhere from 2.9 to 5.8%. But I think the point I'm trying to make here, Harry, is the fact that for several years utilities were given up for dead. A bond equivalent. No one wanted any part of it. It wasn't a growth story. And now all of a sudden the importance of dividends, people, institutions, individuals are starting to focus on that.
Geopolitical follow-up. Was that non-performance, if you will, a byproduct of an administration that's adverse to energy?
I think maybe to a certain degree, but Harry, I think it's more. It's not so much driven in what's happening here in our country, but what is happening overseas. Particularly, you have two raging wars. I'm not going to comment on what Biden, thought process is with that. But Israel has to continue to defend itself at the end of the day. I don't care how you slice it or dice it.
Did you hear that our government took the official position that they don't think that Israel can win? Did you know that?
I was not aware of that. No, Harry.
Now you are.
So thank you. So yeah. Israel cannot win.
That's what the Deputy Secretary of State said, that it is unlikely that Israel will defeat Hamas in Gaza. I know.
All right. Let's go back to your original question. That's about weekly jobless claims.
Yes.
So if you remember, and I think Kirk said it, and we kind of piled on. It seemed like for 4, 5, 6 weeks we got stuck at 212,000. It was just, Harry, it's literally impossible.
Right, it was suspicious,
to have
actually.
The same number week in and week out. You have 50 states reporting on different portals and websites. How do you end up at 212,000? So now, last Thursday at 8:30, the weekly jobless claims jumped to 231,000. And Harry, that was the highest number that we have seen since August. As a result of that, continuing claims, which run a week behind, increased to almost 1.8 million, up 17,000 from the previous week. So, and again, these are quote unquote seasonally adjusted numbers. Mm-hmm. So when you think about it, we had some strong hiring reports, but all of a sudden, this inflation is really starting, to impact not only individuals, but a lot of, small businesses and large corporations. I mean, it's just terribly expensive, to do business. So, the thing about weekly jobless claims, Harry, they're one of the timeliest indicators of when the economy is starting to undergo some serious deterioration. And the magnitude of these new layoffs that we have seen over the last several weeks, look to be pretty worrisome. I
think especially considering we're entering the summer season.
Right now, 1 week does not make a trend, but we can no longer be sure if we're going to have these calm seas ahead, Harry. Maybe we have a storm brewing, in the future. And again, this is a really good indicator. I think more important than the monthly jobs reports.
Right after, great stuff, great opening. Right after the break, much more important financial content with Chuck Malamud, who you can reach. You can reach the Malamud Group at 609-383-2010. We'll be back in just a few minutes. Don't go away. Short break.
You're waking up with Hurley in the morning.
Brigantine.
Mays Landing. EHT.
Ocean City.
WPG Talk Radio 95.5. South Jersey's talk station. Bible. Wake up weekday mornings with Hurley in the morning.
This is the stuff we need to talk about.
WPG Talk Radio 95.5.
And thank you and welcome back. It is 19 minutes past the hour. Chuck Malama continues all about your financial matters. Dr. Bob Zlotnick on deck in today's fourth quarter action. Is there more on consumer sentiment?
Well, no, we did. We went.
I know
we touched. No, we did weekly. Jobless claims. But as far as consumer sentiment, I mean, Harry, that came out on Friday as well.
Yeah.
And this is a survey done by the University of Michigan, and the initial reading that was posted was 67.4. And Harry, it was down. It was in April. It was at 77.2.
So that's going.
And the consensus was about 76. So the number came in way below expectation. It was a decline of about 12.7%. Now, at the same time, the 1 year inflation outlook jumped to 3.5%. Now it was up 0.3% from a month ago, Harry, at highest level that we've seen since November of 2023. So consumer sentiment slumped as inflation expectations increased. Again, this is all impacting the economy here. So you have a downbeat thought process, sentiment, we'll call it. Consumers have been reserving judgments, Harry, their judgments over the last several months. They now perceive these negative developments on a number of fronts. They expressed worries about inflation, unemployment, interest rates. They all might be moving, Harry, in an unfavorable direction in the upcoming year. So think about that. We had an April jobs report that came in below expectations. We had weekly jobless claims that were higher than expectations.
Almost since a year.
We had consumer sentiment that was below expectations. So I think if you take a look,
is the dreaded R word coming into any level of Chuck? In other words, you ask me this every week.
No, I've laid off a couple.
I know
weeks.
you have, but are we in a recession, Chuck?
I don't know, Harry.
Ask me what I think.
Harry, you think we're in a recession?
No.
Really?
I got to go with the company line. They're never going to cop. Mm-hmm. I do think that we are in trouble, and that word would be, discussed, but it won't be for the next 5-6 months.
So here's, Harry, here's what's very, very interesting here. First quarter earnings are pretty much in the books. I think 92% of the S&P 500 companies reported. Home Depot reported this morning.
How'd they do?
A little soft on the top line. So what is happening? You've seen.
I would have predicted that because right now, you need to have money to spend to build or do these things, and I think people are holding back right now.
So first quarter, Harry, it's pretty much in the books, and what we have seen is that earnings are up about 5.5% compared with the same quarter a year ago. Sales growth is up about 4% over that same time period. So we're waiting for like a company like NVIDIA. They're coming. Actually on May the 22nd, with respect to their earnings report. But what is happening here, Harry, is that because these companies have been able to pivot, and even though the revenue, the top line number is either at or slightly below expectation, the EPS, or the earnings per share, they're able to manage costs a lot more effectively. And actually, it was just last week, it was actually Deutsche Bank came out, Harry, and they said that they expected about $400 billion in stock buybacks. Okay.
Yeah. What's up with that?
So the companies, think about it. a company has an option. They have excess cash. So do you put it back into, R&D, research and development? Do you grow, do you grow your company, or do you increase your share price? Your stock price by bringing stock in off of the street. You think about it, it's all a matter of supply and demand.
Yes.
If you buy back your stock, it usually pushes up the stock price.
Yeah, it strengthens.
So what is happening because of these buybacks? Think about it. We've come a long way, even in spite of everything that we just talked about. Stock buybacks are up about 30%, Harry, from the same period just a year ago. So companies are pretty upbeat with respect to the economy in spite of everything we're reporting. But remember, what is the stock market? It is a leading indicator.
Correct.
It's not a lagging indicator. Some of these numbers, weekly jobless claims, April jobs report, what's
the conventional wisdom that it's a leading indicator that this is how it will look a year from now?
Six months.
Okay.
6 months to a year, typically, okay. Harry. So the
wow, we have an election in 6 months.
Actually, I heard the other day it was 175 days, right?
Or there's states voting in September too, though, Chuck. So it's really closer than that.
So in about 6 minutes or 5 minutes, we're going to see PPI. Usually it's kind of reversed. CPI comes first, PPI comes second. PPI is coming this morning. Harry,
wonder why they flipped it. Come on,
I know you're
nothing.
Like this.
I don't believe in coincidences. Okay. Everything's for a reason.
Well, I never really gave it much thought, but that's okay because you're more of that conspiracy theory guy. Which is fine, and we're all okay with that.
I just always look at if like somebody does this every single time, and all of a sudden one time they deviate. That's usually not for nothing.
Well, we're going to find. So we're in about 4 minutes.
Like they're going to fake some good news today.
We're going to find out.
Yeah.
So anyway, PPI comes, and that's a report on wholesale goods. That's today. CPI tomorrow, Wednesday. Economists are expecting a slightly softer April CPI report, Harry. The headline print is about 3.4%. And which excludes food and energy, 3.6%. So the April, here's what's interesting. The data that we're going to see today and tomorrow, it's the last full month of inflation readings before the Fed's next policy meeting in June. So, as a Fed, as a Fed sitting there saying, listen, we're getting everything we're seeing here, the tea leaves, maybe things aren't so great out here. The consumer is continuing.
Well, I do think they would love to have a reason to lower interest rates.
Yeah.
They got a team that they're working for.
And actually, the 175 days ticks off every day. Mm-hmm. Not to say that they're a political machine, but, chances are, to a certain degree, that they are political.
It's going to be very, very interesting. We have 2 minutes before the bottom of the hour. Lending standards.
Yeah, as you know, it continues to get tougher and tougher to get money right now.
That's a shame.
It's just not an easy thing for companies and individuals. So Q1, there's a report that's carried. It's called the Fed's Senior Loan Officer Opinion Survey, SLOSH, SLOOS. Okay.
That's funny.
So it's indicating a tightening of lending standards for commercial and industrial loans. So does not come as any surprise as to where we are in the marketplace, with respect to be able to get your hands on money. So that's why you can look at first quarter earnings. Companies, earn less, but they're able to get more done because they've gone through these cost reductions.
Still a minute and a half, so let's get this in, and we'll really cover a lot of ground this morning with Chuck. What is up with the April employment report?
So, Harry, as you know, non-farm payrolls increased by about 175,000 in April. The expectation was, believe it or not, 240,000. Mm-hmm. It's the smallest gain we have seen since October of 2023. I think, again, Kirk said it great. The unemployment rate was at 3.9%, all right, and it held steady, still below that 4% threshold. So I think it's a math. I don't want to. What was it? Fuzzy math?
Yeah.
The real question is what is the the true unemployment? But if we look into the details of that employment report, temporary jobs are decreasing. Manufacturing jobs have been flat for about a year, and information technology jobs are moving lower as well. So, healthcare and government, okay, and services, discretionary consumer discretionary services, hotels, airlines. I mean, that's what grew the number. But think about manufacturing has been flat for a year.
Yeah.
So you got to really understand what the numbers represent, and we kind of. I don't think we chuckle about it, but the temporary jobs, you work 3, you count 3 times, but those temporary jobs right now, Harry, are starting to decrease at the same time. So, the belt is getting a little bit tighter and tighter as we work through this cycle.
Halftime break, right on time, Chuck. You've been doing this a long time. You know how to hit your mark. I love Chuck's language, the American pipe dream, because it used to be the American dream was home ownership. What everyone aspired to have your own home, not live in somebody else's home. We'll talk about that when we come back. And Chuck will report first on PPI, and then we'll get into the American pipe dream. To reach Chuck Malamut in the Malamut Group, 609-383-2010. Back in just a few minutes.
This is the Town Square, New Jersey Info and Weather Network.
At 30 minutes past the hour, Harry Hurley with Chuck Malamut. I have 3 items that you can follow right now on the WPG Talk Radio 95.5 app. These 5 Atlantic City Board of Education members have relatives in the school district with school jobs. We name names. Check it out. An Egg Harbor Township fire chief has passed away after more than 30 years of public safety service. Sad beyond words. Check that out. And we opine about the Trump Wildwood rally.
From the Town Square, New Jersey Info and Weather Network, I'm Chief Meteorologist Dan Zarrow. Our weather will slowly drift downhill today as clouds fill in and rain chances increase. In the meantime, could see peaks of sun this morning, temperatures around 50. We'll see a high of 70 as skies turn cloudy and spotty showers are possible from midday through the afternoon. A few showers around tonight, low 58, and a continuing chance of rain tomorrow. Could be steady or heavy for a time. High comes down to 65. Get weather 24/7 wherever you are. Download our free mobile app today.
You're waking up with Hurley in the morning. WPG Talk Radio 95.5. You're waking up with Hurley in the morning.
It's the topics that matter to me.
WPG Talk Radio 95.5.
Well, I wish Chuck had good news for everyone. Mr. Malamut?
So April PPI, the estimate was 0.3%. Harry came in at 0.5%. Hotter than expected, as we were talking during the break. Usually you move by, some 0.3 to 0.4, but now you're 0.3 to 0.5. I think the market reacted fairly well. I mean, I don't want to say it was a muted response, but I think maybe 100-point differential in the Dow. I think tomorrow's a big number. It's all about the market sitting here waiting on CPI. The question is, and we've heard it before, and it was actually just sort of discussed on a competitive show that maybe the Fed was a little bit early in stopping and putting these interest rates, increases on hold. Can you imagine what would happen if the Fed met
and raised
rates over the summer?
Let me tell you, well, it would be the end of the incumbent president and markets wouldn't know what to do because the exact opposite. We were going to be in a rate decrease environment. But as you know, the Fed chair has left open all, options, including if the need is there to raise rates. But I'll make a prediction, Chuck. See if you buy into this. And this is purely political. I don't believe the Fed will raise rates, even if it was the right thing to do. They won't do it.
Harry, I don't think they need to raise rates here, because you think about it. We started,
I don't either.
We started our discussion today on the weekly jobless claims higher, continuing jobless claims higher, meaning labor drives the economy. And
would you be surprised if CPI tomorrow is not a negative event? I don't expect that to be good news tomorrow.
I think that the CPI print might be slightly higher than expectation. If that's the case, that'll be 4 consecutive months.
Correct.
And the market has taken it, pretty much in stride. But, a lot of this, Harry, and we talked about this before, auto insurance rates, homeowner insurance rates have basically, have skyrocketed. Shelter costs are on the increase as well. I mean, a lot of prices have come down, but they all haven't come down in unison. And speaking of which, as you mentioned right before the break, the American dream is now the American pipe dream.
Talk about that.
So, most renters would really prefer to be homeowners. However, roughly, Harry, only 40% believe they'll ever be able to purchase their own home right now. It's a record low amount.
That's terrible.
And again, it's because of these higher mortgage rates, with the Fed trying to fight inflation, and these, ever escalating home prices because.
And as you know, Chuck, in the not too distant past, we actually had record home ownership in our country. And now it's the exact opposite.
We did. And the inventory, I think what is saved housing, I mean, you think about it, new construction, housing starts continue to move onward and upward in a positive direction. But, existing home sales, existing homes, that number continues to work in the opposite direction, because think about how many people are trapped in their homes because the good news is they have a very low interest rate on their mortgage, but to move out now and to go, I mean, you're going to almost double, maybe even double plus on that rate, and you might be sub 4% right now, Harry, and all of a sudden you're north of 7.
Yep.
That's a big bite. But remember, we said it all too well. You buy your home, you rent your mortgage.
Yes.
So if there's a property that you need to get out of your home, you get to another home, or you need to move or whatever, you will have an opportunity at some point in time to go refinance that mortgage.
That was the great Bill Malamut doctrine. I'll never forget when we bought, and you were right with me, Chuck, 30 years ago, we bought the Ponderosa, and the rate was 8% with AAA credit. And Bill told me, don't worry about that. We'll take care of that over time. And we did. We cut it in half.
And
we went from
I think
8 to 6, 6 to 4. And I should have done it one more time.
I think you had 2-3 bites at the apple there.
2.
Okay.
I should have had 3. And I have no excuse for not doing it, especially with the stream, the stream that's available to do it, Streamline refinance. It's available. Should have done it. This is very curious. I'm like stuttering because I want to get to this. The state of the economy, Mr. Chuck Malamut.
So, Harry, if you poll the average person on the street right now, less than 30%, actually 28% of Americans say the economy is in good or excellent condition.
Say that again.
28% believe that the economy is in good or excellent condition. 26% believe that the conditions are going to continue to deteriorate over the next year. And again, it's all about higher consumer prices. That's the number one concern. So think about less than a third think the economy is in good shape, and another 25% believe that the conditions will deteriorate as we get into next year.
And I think that 28% is fake news. I think that's just dishonest people, because who could possibly say that based on everything we know, the cost of everything, food, energy, interest rates, inflation. I mean, the number's still terrible, don't get me wrong, but I still don't believe it. I just think it's a bogus number. However, we are looking better than?
Well, if you go across the pond, Harry, and you look at Europe, the Eurozone economy did rebound in the first quarter so they had a mild recession.
Yeah.
So I don't.
Well, they acknowledged that they had one.
So they had a.
That's the only difference.
They had a mild recession.
We did too.
They rebounded, and again, a lot of that was attributed to what was happening in Germany, because Germany is the largest region in the Eurozone. They returned to a growth mode as inflation steadied there. So those improvements did help reinforce the case for the ECB, the European Central Bank, to cut rates, in the near future. So the ECB did hold rates steady at their last meeting. They left them at 5.25%, Harry, and that was last Thursday. But they set the stage for these cuts potentially as early as next month.
Chuck, we have to go to the break. We'll come back, but it's unusual. We usually lead the world, but right now we're behind them.
We are.
That says a lot. Mm-hmm. And I think it's because we didn't acknowledge, because we tried to protect someone, we didn't acknowledge truth. And I think it really did have an effect. If you don't acknowledge it, how do you come out of it if you don't acknowledge it? And we keep hearing, and our president says, how we're the strongest economy in the world. Duh, he says. Duh. The strongest economy in the world. Duh. We'll be back. He's Chuck Malamut. I am Hurley in the Morning. We'll be right back. Don't go away.
You're waking up with Hurley in the Morning.
It's well-balanced conversation.
WPG Talk Radio 95.5. You're waking up with Hurley in the Morning.
I listen every morning.
WPG Talk Radio 95.5.
Thank you very much. Welcome back. Chuck Malamut continues talking all about your financial matters. And a reminder, to reach the Chuck Malamut Group at Morgan Stanley's Northfield, New Jersey office, simply call 609-383-2010. 609-383-2010. Tick-tock, Chuck, the top 10 U.S. stocks.
So tick-tock for the top 10. So, Harry, I think this is something that your listeners really need to pay attention to.
We are.
At the end of April, the 10 largest U.S. stocks made up about 33% of the largest 500 stocks by market capitalization.
Wow.
So 10 stocks were represented a third. And a lot of that, remember, goes back to that Magnificent Seven.
Yes.
So you go back and do a little bit of homework. Since 1970, history has showed that once that concentration exceeds 30%, and remember we're at 33 for the top 10, those 10 typically go on to underperform the rest of the market, Harry, 95% of the time over the next 5 years.
Wow.
So
that's determinative.
Yeah. So again, if history is a guide, we're over that 30%. We're 33 for the top 10. And look, we constantly, Mike and Frank and I, we always talk about the importance of diversification. Mm-hmm. You don't want to own too much of a good thing. And as a result of this historical analysis, it's that much more important that you really diversify your portfolio.
When I talk about you all the time, Chuck, that's what that's like the hallmark of what you talk about is proper asset allocation.
Yeah, for a lot of years, growth exceeded value, and I think, as we mentioned at the beginning of the show today, utilities are the number two, the second number 2 as far as best performing sector year to date. And Harry, that basically came out of nowhere. I mean, they, for years, if I remember, like they just lagged. They were at the bottom of the heap. And all of a sudden, most favored nation, everybody wants to get on utilities. So that's...
I don't know who is a fan of this, and I'm sure there are people out there, maybe if they're day traders or whatever, but all your eggs in one basket, that's never a good strategy, Chuck, is it?
Well, Harry, if you know when to be there and when not to be there, it's great.
Well, but you don't, though.
But the problem is you don't know at what point in time where to be when. It's be a real easy game to play. It's like you betting. It's like you and Kirk every night betting on the Phillies.
They keep winning.
They do.
I know. It's amazing. And my Yankees are doing a lot of winning too.
And so is that team out on the left coast that wears that blue jersey. Yeah, they're doing
pretty. They call it Dodger blue. They're about the same as the Yankees, 27-15.
Yeah, they're doing pretty good.
Yeah, both right there.
It'll be interesting to see the Dodgers come to Philadelphia in July. So we'll see what happens.
This is something I know because you used to be a Phillies fan before you changed colors. And I don't mean that literally. I mean just from red to Dodger blue. But the Phillies usually start out slow and they come on strong.
Yeah, this is very unusual. Very unusual for them. So hopefully they can continue on that
for those,
positive streak they're in.
For those who haven't been paying attention, the Phillies have the best record in all of Major League Baseball.
They do, and they've had that now for a couple of weeks.
I know.
Yep.
Yankees, though, and Dodgers are right behind.
There's a couple teams. I mean, look, it's
and
only
Baltimore.
We're like middle of May, Harry. We got there's a long season.
However, though, if you start out miserable, it usually means you don't make the playoffs. I don't know why this is true, but teams that start like 0-3 even have only like a 10% chance of ever making the playoffs. It's weird how that works. So how you play now.
But again, there are some really, really bad teams.
It's true, and there's some really good teams. Cybercrime, which I despise, it's on the rise, though, isn't it?
It is, Harry. And, we actually had a situation just last week where, it's just so easy for, all of us to get kind of trapped into a situation where you get a call, you get an email, you get a text, and you click on it, you answer the call, and all of a sudden you're entrapped in this process, and you feel as if you have to work with them. So if
they trick people, they'll trick people into taking control of your computer remotely, and some people go for it. It's dangerous out there.
Look, I always say that you spend how many hours a day in your career and your livelihood. You're pretty much, if you're not sleeping, you're working.
That's true,
right?
Yeah, I'm on digital devices all the time.
But think about what they do. They spend their entire day or existence in trying to figure out a way to take your money.
Yeah, they have what I call the 1% hit rate. They will call 100 people to get one. It's all they want is 1% hit rate.
Yeah. So here's what's interesting is I don't think it's not necessarily great news. So the FBI, they have a Internet Crime Complaint Center, and Harry, they reported that it received 3.8 million cybercrime related complaints, totaling about $37 billion in losses over the 5-year period between 2019 2023.
And by the way, that's just the people that filed the complaint. I mean, I was the victim of cybercrime. I didn't file a complaint, though. I just dealt with it. So it's even more than that is the point I'm trying to make.
And Harry, unfortunately, what's going in the wrong direction are the number of complaints. They increased, year over year. In 2022, we were about 800,000, and in 2023, 880,000. So, a pretty big increase year over year.
This next question, I think, is a follow up to what I had said earlier about an administration that's adverse to energy. Of course, U.S. crude rigs are on the decline. because this administration is adverse to energy in general and oil in particular. So, wow, what a surprise, Chuck. U.S. crude rigs are on the decline. I predict, though, in about 6 months, they're going to be on the rise.
So, Harry, if you look at, as we got to the end of April, there are 511 active U.S. crude oil rigs. That's down from 591 just a year ago. And you look at the price of crude, it's somewhat volatile. But I think we have created, our own mess to a certain degree by having to rely on others for a very, very important necessity.
We should be energy independent
for our existence.
And we should be a net oil exporter. And 4 years ago we were, and we can be again. President Trump just said the other night here in New Jersey, in Wildwood, that we have all of this below our feet, and they're going to drill. It's going to be drill, baby, drill.
Yeah, I mean, it's, the appetite for these EVs or electric vehicles.
Nobody wants them.
Nobody, you're right. Nobody wants
them.
And
they're crushing people.
The cost to build.
Yeah.
I think we might have talked about this. One of the U.S.
How about the strip mining that goes into just the minerals and these cobalt and all these things you need just to make these batteries and
but where do there's the batteries, once they go bad,
we got to figure it all out because they're not worried about it right now. It's like 10 years and they're going to be in landfills.
They go to a battery junkyard landfill,
yeah.
And it's really just a bad scene, Harry. And so the cost, the cost to build an EV is subsidized. It was roughly $5,000. The combustion engine vehicles increased in price by about $5,000 to help the EV side of the business. And like you said, a lot of people don't want them now.
No. Here's another thing that's very sad to report. Only 4% of current retirees say they are living the dream. That is a pathetic number.
Yeah, so Harry, when you think about it, 4% of retirees today said they're living the dream. And on the flip side,
does that mean living comfortably?
Yeah, and on the flip side, 4%. Another 4% say they're living the nightmare.
Oh my gosh!
Many of the respondents, actually 45% said that they are comfortable. 35% say they are not great but not bad, and 15% say they are struggling, according to these recent results. So the real picture of retirement is pretty far from the dreams that Americans had hoped for and worked so hard for, Harry. And this was a survey that was actually done in March and April, and unfortunately, 89% of those respondents said, Harry, inflation is lessening the value of their assets, and it's really cutting into their lifestyle.
Final minute, price of fast food, Chuck.
So, Harry, one of the things that we had talked about during, this inflation boom is that the consumer got squeezed.
Yes, big time.
And they kind of, moved down the scale with respect to, where they were going to dine. So as it turns out, a recent study that was done compared price changes of 10 items at 12 different restaurants. And as it turns out, the price increased by 50%, Harry.
Terrible.
Over the last 3 years.
I know you don't talk about any one company, but I think it's going to be a trend. McDonald's is going to be coming out with a $5 value meal because they're responding to this problem.
I did see that.
And the reason I bring up one company is because they're going to do it, and that's going to make other companies do it as well. This program is presented weekly for 32 years, this July 1st, 32 full years. Presented and sponsored by Chuck Malamut. Dr. Bob Zlotnick is next. Thanks, Chuck.
WPGG,
enjoy your week, Harry.
Great
City,
program.
WENJ
well done.
HD3, Millville, a Town Square media station. Everything you need to know in 6 minutes starts now. From Harry Hurley Way in the world's playground to the Broadcast Pioneers of Philadelphia Hall of Fame. You're about to find out why Harry Hurley has been named to the Talkers Magazine list of the 100 most important talk show hosts in the nation. Live from the studios of Town Square Media in Northfield, it's Hurley in the Morning on WPG Talk Radio 95.5 and the WPG Talk Radio app.
We are back. It's my pleasure to welcome Dr. Bob Zlotnick. This program for many, many years. Absolutely over 15. And your mic is now on, Dr. Bob Zlotnick. Presented and sponsored by Atlantic Prevention Resources. Dr. Bob, time is yours.
Thank you, Harry. Good morning.
Good morning to you.
Hope all's well.
Very well.
Thank you. We are going to talk about Alcoholics Anonymous today. This week...
Time well spent.
This week is the 89th anniversary of the founding of Alcoholics Anonymous. 89 years ago this week, the two founders met for the first time. Bill Wilson, who was worked in the financial industry in New York, who had been sober probably 4 or 5 months by himself, because there was no program to help people, met Dr. Bob Smith. Mother's Day, 1935.
Wow.
Dr. Bob kept drinking after that meeting and stopped on June 10th, which is known as the actual founding day. So we're coming up on the 89th anniversary of the founding of Alcoholics Anonymous, but this week is the anniversary of their first meeting 89 years ago.
How about that? Interesting. It took them a little time to...
well...
It does. It can.
Everybody's different.
Correct.
So I called up the local office of Alcoholics Anonymous, which serves Atlantic and Cape May County, and I asked for someone to come in and talk about it. And so I've invited Rob here. Rob is the chair of the Public Information Committee and the Cooperation with the Professional Community Committee.
Fantastic.
And so he's going to talk about AA in general terms, answer questions if you have any, and if people want to call in and ask questions.
Great.
So this is something that Alcoholics Anonymous provides as a public service. I mean, the whole program essentially is a public service, but the specific committees that Rob chairs deal with public information for the general public. And as you know, AA doesn't advertise. It's anonymous.
Yes.
So its members don't go on TV or radio and talk about things, using their last name. Certainly celebrities are a gray area. A lot of them do talk about that.
It is interesting. This is such a good point you're raising, because it doesn't formally do these things. It's quite extraordinary how much market saturation level awareness there is.
Well, and that's
interesting.
Largely because of celebrities who have gone public. Specifically, Betty Ford was the first groundbreaking
game changer.
Who was, the first lady in the White House, talked about her drinking openly.
That took the stigma and just really opened up.
Yeah, so we're talking about 50 years ago.
Yeah.
So, it's been in the public eye really since the 30s, since it was founded. There was an article in the Saturday Evening Post, which was a huge publication back then, that really brought a lot of attention to AA. Their inquiries went up like 100-fold in one day. And people calling and writing letters for information. So, good morning, Rob.
Good morning. This is Rob H, as they call me.
Wow, my son is Rob H.
There you go. Look at this.
But you're not my son.
No. I may be older than you. So that would be a miracle.
Yes, it would be.
But I do have to say that I do love AA. It's really brought my life back, so to speak. So, speaking about me, because it's my favorite subject, today is my 18th anniversary of no drinking, no drugs.
Congratulations.
What a great day.
What a coincidence.
To be together.
I know.
It is. It's excellent. And, and I like, Bob, I like what you were saying about the history of AA, because I'm really involved with that, and I love it. And you were talking about the article in the Saturday Evening Post, and I believe that was Jack Alexander who wrote that. But, that started at a dinner that Rockefeller had. So Rockefeller had this dinner inviting these AA guys that he had been hearing about. And the AA guys came and they sat down and they told their stories. 3 of them told their stories. And it was a great reception, and everyone loved it. But Roosevelt was suspicious. He said, there's no way an alcoholic can stay sober, because that was the stigma back then. Once you were alcoholic, you were finished. They would lock you away.
There was no cure.
There was no
treatment.
None at all.
Nothing effective.
And you weren't even given a chance that you could reform or whatever. That's why
there was no treatment, because people just didn't know how.
Right, but there were people, though, that stopped.
They were probably just heavy drinkers.
They
weren't literally
alcoholic.
Got it. You know? But Roosevelt was very suspicious. So he had Jack Alexander follow these three guys around. He followed these three guys around for 6 months and reported back into Roosevelt. And to his disbelief, he said, these guys are living a good life. They're treating, they're going home to their families. They do these meetings. They go to work every morning.
So they disproved his suspicion.
They did.
Wow.
And that's when the article was written. And,
did he change his way of thinking because of this 6 months of observation?
He did. That's why he wrote the fantastic article. And we can still look it up. If we look on the web, Jack Alexander's article on AA in, I believe it was the late 30s.
So what a huge moment in history.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes. Absolutely.
Until the founding of Alcoholics Anonymous, there was no really proven effective treatment. I mean, it's not treatment, but, resolution for the alcoholism problem in this country or around the world.
It's what they call a threefold disease. So we have the mental problem with obsessing and craving over alcohol. We have the physical part. Once we take the drink, we need more. There's no stopping us. And then there's the spiritual side. The spiritual side, because when we're drinking, that's our God. That's our God. We don't need anything else. We're always looking for that sense of ease and comfort, and that's what alcohol gave for us. So we always say in the meetings that I go to, there's two cures for alcohol. Alcohol itself, because that'll make us feel good, or God, because that gives us that sense of ease and comfort. But a lot of alcoholics struggle to find that the spiritual way. They have trouble finding God for whatever reason. There's a slew of reasons. But in the beginning of the big book, Dr. Silkworth wrote an article and wrote letters just to put in the beginning of the big book saying, hey, I'm a doctor, this stuff works. But he talks about the spiritual malady that we all suffer from and we need to overcome.
Let's take a break. We're going to come right back because radio is theater of the mind. Rob is extremely fit, and his bicep is bigger than my leg.
Mine too.
Very, very fit. Just pleasure to welcome you into the studio, Rob and Dr. Bob. Terrific topic, and obviously a very timely topic on the 89th anniversary of Alcohol Anonymous. Just a lot to talk about this hour. We'll be back in just a few minutes. Don't go away.
Hurley in the morning.
If you really want to know what's happening in Atlantic City, it's Harry Hurley every single morning.
WPG Talk Radio 95.5. WPG Talk Radio 95.5. For complete contest rules, visit WPGTalkRadio.com. You're waking up with Hurley in the morning.
Egg Harbor Township, Ocean City, Goshen, Cape May.
WPG Talk Radio 95.5 and the WPG Talk Radio app.
We are back at 19 minutes past the hour. Dr. Bob, Rob H. Dr. Bob, time is yours.
Thank you, Harry. We're talking about Alcoholics Anonymous. This week is the 89th anniversary of the first meeting of two gentlemen who went on to found AA in June of 1935. Rob, talk about what someone could expect if somebody's listening and they have a drinking problem. What can they expect, if they come to AA? First, how will they get in touch?
Well, people in this area can go to CapeAtlanticIntergroup.org, and that will give them a list of all the meetings in the area. It will give them for per day, the times, the locations, all that stuff. On any particular day in our area, there's between 10 to 20 different meetings that they can go to. So going to AA meetings is the only requirement for someone that's trying to stop drinking.
That would be the first step.
That would be the first. That's not necessarily the first step, but that is the initial thing that they would have to do. They should come to a meeting to talk about or to meet people that are actually just like them.
Rob, do you have to go to a meeting, or could you participate by video conference?
You can do Zoom meetings, yes, and there are Zoom meetings.
And that counts as attending a meeting?
Absolutely.
Just making sure.
For me, though,
you want to be there.
I like to be there.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with that. I think there's something that's lost in a video chat, that the interpersonal everything about being there is very different.
Now, during COVID, the Zoom meetings were great.
Yeah.
Because that's all we could do, right?
That's right.
There were some outside meetings that I found, and I went to those. So that would be the first thing. The only requirement for AA is a desire to stop drinking, the desire. But that is not the only requirement to stay in recovery. To stay in recovery for a lengthy period of time, there are some things that we all have to do. And those things are, get a sponsor, someone who can take you through these steps. It's a 12-step program. So the sponsor is someone who has already gone through the steps. A sponsor is someone who has had some type of spiritual experience, or they should. That would be a question that I would have for any potential sponsor. What was your spiritual experience? And if they can't answer that, move on to the next person. But then, so it's going to meetings, having a sponsor, doing the 12 steps, and then also picking a group that you feel very familiar with. We'll call it a home group. So your home group is a meeting you're always going to go to every week. You get to know those people. You do a commitment there. Make coffee. It used to be empty ashtrays, but we don't do that anymore, right? And then there's being the greeter at the door. There's being the treasurer. There's the intergroup rep, which is how I started in intergroup, so that I could become the PI CBC chair. So being involved is important. Being involved makes us feel like we're part of life again, because, when we're drinking and doing anything else, could be drugging, we really isolate and we pull away from everyone and anything, because all we think we need is the drink. If I have the drink, I don't need anything else.
Rob, I've heard people say, I need a meeting. So maybe they go to a certain amount of meetings, but they might be in a certain place. Who knows? There could be a lot of stress. Maybe lost your job, have, lost someone close to you, and you feel like you need a meeting. Explain that thought process.
Well, if I'm saying I need a meeting, I know it because the first thing that happens is I start screaming and yelling at other drivers on the road. That's my first, oh boy, haven't been to a meeting in a week. I better get there, because I can tell, like, my anger will start, will scream at me. So that's for me. And then the reason why people say I need a meeting, because that's really where we find people just like us, that we can talk about these things. If we're talking about this...
now, needing a meeting doesn't necessarily mean that you feel like you're going to go take a drink.
Right.
It may be that you need a meeting just
because of life.
Yes.
Life, mental health, yes, all
Stress.
those things. Stress is a big one. Now, when the meetings that I go in, and there's absolute pure love in those meetings. People, we love these other people. And so when I walk into a meeting and I see a newcomer, someone that said they needed a meeting, we've only seen them 2 or 3 times before, they're welcomed. Yeah. They're welcomed. We want them to feel like they belong.
Did COVID-19 crush a lot of people that had been maybe not drinking for a long period? And because COVID-19 took most people completely out of their routine, out of balance. Maybe you couldn't go to work, maybe whatever. COVID-19, I would imagine, was a big impact, wasn't it?
It was a huge impact. There were many people who, how we say, relapsed because of that, because it did take them out of their normal routine. I had a gentleman who I was sponsoring, and he couldn't do it. He couldn't recover. Now, I also had
and he was doing fine before that.
He was doing well. He had a couple years clean and sober, and he he fell off the wagon, so to speak. And you know, and it is a shame. It happened. It's really, COVID is a really, just in my mind, when I think back, it's almost like, oh, that's felt like so long ago. It was just a couple years ago.
It's true.
There are people, though, that came into AA at the heart of the pandemic, when everything was shut down, and they got sober in Zoom meetings.
The opposite of that.
Yeah. And so that
Giveth
was,
and taketh.
That's how they met people. They didn't even meet face to face. You know, it took them months and months and months before they actually went to live meetings.
They had time on their hands
before the state opened up,
and they started to look at this differently.
Yep.
And got help because of the circumstance.
You know, the liquor stores weren't closed.
Oh,
everything
no,
was closed except for the liquor stores.
Correct.
Restaurants were closed.
And by the way, you've explained why that is, because people could die.
Millions of people could have gone into detox, and it would have flooded the hospital system. That was the last thing that anybody wanted, was people going to the hospital during the pandemic.
And I know that's not music to your ears, Rob.
It is not. It is not. So, like you just said, Dr. Bob, that they kept the liquor stores open because someone could die. Well, they closed the meetings, so some people died. Yeah. Correct?
Right.
It was picking winners and losers in crazy ways. Churches are closed, but the liquor stores are open. I mean, so we could do that whataboutism like up and down. You know,
it was a public health emergency. They wanted to, keep indoor gatherings to an absolute minimum, wherever possible.
Yeah.
Yes. And what happened was a lot of outdoor meetings started, outside meetings. So that, for me, that was wonderful. Yeah. It had probably been about 6 months, because it hit in March, was when everything went down, where you had to stay inside and all that.
By the way, is that tricky, Rob, in terms of the anonymous nature of things? Because here you are out in the open. I'm not saying you're doing it like in the center of town, but was that a little tricky being out in the open?
It was, but some of the meetings, though, were right out back of the church that we would meet, stuff like that. There was one in Kennedy Park where we would sit around. So yeah, it was tricky, because there were some people, they would have their hand over their eyes like, no, I'm not here. But, for me, it wasn't as bad. Oh, I was saying, it wasn't as bad, because I had sponsees calling me. I think I had 6 or 7 at the time, calling me daily, talking to me for an hour. We would talk for hours about AA. So that's really what got me about.
I believe that the role of the sponsor is so huge, because someone that is having a certain moment, having somebody that they can trust, that's relatable to them, and you can be such a help.
Yes, that's exactly what the sponsor can do. The sponsor's actual only real responsibility is to take that person through the 12 steps.
Yeah.
But of course, since they do have experience, they're there to help them.
Yes.
They're there to help them through a lot of different things, whether it be relationships, money, and I'm not saying that I would lend someone money, but I would talk to them about managing their money better, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Dr. Bob?
A sponsor is kind of like a Sherpa.
I like that.
And anybody who would climb Mount Everest without a guide, somebody to help them from dying, because, I would die at 14,000 feet. But,
I love watching. I've been watching the movies about what you're talking about. I love them.
That's what it is.
You're right about that.
Yeah. You wouldn't go up on a ski slope and just start skiing. You need somebody to teach you how it works.
30 minutes past the hour. We'll be right back with Dr. Bob and with Rob. This is Hurley in the Morning, and is Dr. Bob's monthly program, second Tuesday of every month in the 9 o'clock hour, a program presented and sponsored by Atlantic Prevention Resources titled Under the Influence. We'll be back in just a little bit. Don't go away.
Mark Levin.
Anybody who votes for Joe Biden hates the country, because Joe Biden hates the country. Anybody who votes for Joe Biden supports what he's done to our legal system. Anybody who votes for Joe Biden supports that he has funded Iran, he's armed Iran, he has supported Hamas by funding Iran and Hezbollah and all the rest of the damn alphabet soup in the Middle East.
Mark Levin on South Jersey's talk station, WPG Talk Radio 95.5. You're listening to Hurley in the Morning on South Jersey's talk station, WPG Talk Radio 95.5 and the WPG Talk Radio app. Starting your day the right way with Hurley in the Morning.
Honesty and transparency, is not afraid to get down and dirty and really just tell me the truth.
WPG Talk Radio 95.5.
We're back, Dr. Bob and Rob. Dr. Bob, time is yours.
Thank you, Harry. We're talking today about Alcoholics Anonymous. My guest is Rob H. Rob is the chair of the Public Information and...
Bob, I like Rob.
Yes. He's very likable.
Yes.
Public Information Committee of the local chapter of AA, which covers Atlantic and Cape May County. And Rob is also chair of the Cooperation with the Professional Community. So, Rob, if somebody's listening... they're a member of some group somewhere. Do you go and speak to groups like the Elks or the Masons? Like, can somebody invite you to talk about AA, to, give information to?
I would do that, and I can do that.
Okay.
Oftentimes, though, we'll get someone to do it. When the demand is high, I certainly can't be everywhere.
Of course.
So just like when you called or emailed, I thought it was a good opportunity for me to come and talk. But it could have been anybody, anyone with AA experience, so to speak.
AA doesn't go out looking for members, right?
They do not.
Okay.
It's a program of attraction rather than promotion.
Gotcha.
People come to you.
People come to us.
People who wake up one morning and they feel like their drinking is out of control,
yep,
and they need help. And now, because of modern technology and publicity, everybody's heard of AA. Back when it was founded, it was much harder to come in contact with it. So they first, what's the first thing they'll do? They call the number, go to the internet.
Yeah. First of all, Cape Atlantic Intergroup is a really good resource for many different things. Now, there is a hotline for them to call. If an individual thinks that they have a real drinking problem, they can call this number, and it is 609-641-8855. And there are people that are there's staff that's on those phones, and they're AA people, and what they do is they will direct these individuals to meetings,
mm-hmm,
or they may direct them to whatever they need, whichever thing is appropriate for them. They could recommend rehab, but most of the time it's for AA and it's for AA meetings.
Here's one thing that's super important. Anybody listening is a heavy drinker or knows someone who is a heavy drinker. Nobody should ever stop drinking without seeking medical attention. It can be fatal. So everybody should get help to stop drinking. At least the family doctor. Consult with them. If you ever wake up in the morning, someone wakes up in the morning and has the shakes, tremors, they have an intense craving, and then they drink and it goes away, that's probably a sign that they would suffer severe withdrawal symptoms and should always get help. And probably hospitalization may be required, but certainly medication would ease that.
You would then be weaned.
It's called detoxification.
Yeah.
Because alcohol is toxic. And it builds up in your system. The body becomes accustomed to it. And without that, people can have withdrawal symptoms up to and including seizures.
Wow. That's very important.
Just like many prescription medications, especially the depressant type medications, which are very closely chemically related to alcohol. Things like Xanax, Valium.
And benzodiazepines.
Yep.
Yes.
Very important content.
Yeah. So nobody should ever stop drinking if they're a heavy drinker, heavy to extreme, large quantities of alcohol.
You do it under supervision.
Absolutely. Get medical advice.
Very important.
Yeah, and we've known that, or the human race has known that for hundreds of years.
Yeah, the research into alcoholism began in the 19th century. There were papers, medical papers written about alcoholism in the 1800s. But the temperance movement was one attempt to, make alcohol legal. It worked for like 20 some years, almost 16 years, I think. But that was a religious-led movement.
And society was very intolerant. It wasn't treated like a disease. We've talked a lot on Dr. Bob's show, Rob, that if you hear somebody has cancer or any heart needs a heart transplant, whatever it might be.
There's a lot of compassion.
There's just total compassion. But this is a disease, and yet people treat it like, why don't you just stop? And it used to even be worse. Now I think there's at least
the stigma
some awareness
has been reduced.
Yes, that it's a disease.
Where's your willpower? We always hear.
Yeah, like
where's
you're choosing that over your son, your children, your wife. But really, it's a disease.
And there is no compassion because a lot of people, when they're out there drinking and drugging and doing whatever they're doing, they're stealing, they're cheating, they're not honest.
Yeah.
So that puts
they leave a big wake.
They leave a big wake.
But even if they just drank and didn't do any of that, maybe they were. There are what's the term called? Functional alcoholics. They show up to work. I had one in my life. I'm not going to mention who it is, of course, and it was in a different, lifetime, not anything to do with where I am now over the past 32 years. I'll just say that as a disclaimer. But this individual, I would see this person at 1 a.m, and the next morning, it was unbelievable. 7 o'clock in the morning.
They got it together.
Yeah, one of the first ones in. So I don't know I don't know if there are people that can process alcohol, and I know long term that doesn't end well, period. But that does, I have witnessed that.
That wasn't me. I've been through, when I was out there drinking, I went through so many jobs because I was the one who said, you know what, I'm not going in today because I'm hungover and I'm tired.
Yeah. And there you go.
Yep.
So it's the quote unquote the hangover effect, because you did what you did. Now it messes up your job.
Oh yeah.
And it messes up people's lives with their families and everything else. Something we talked about, and I would just like you to talk about it, Rob, generally, because I know we can't pick a number out of the sky and we can't measure lives saved. But AA has saved untold amount of lives, hasn't it?
It really has. Not only has it saved the alcoholic's life, but as we discussed earlier when we were off the air, it saved his family.
Yeah.
It really made a huge impact on them and how
children had a father again.
Children.
Or whatever.
Children had a father again.
Yeah.
Wife had a spouse again.
Yes.
Husband had a spouse again.
Yeah.
Mothers and fathers had a son or daughter again.
Yeah.
Yes. So, I mean, the amount of people that have gotten clean and sober and stayed clean and sober through AA, it's in the millions. It's worldwide. In the millions. Worldwide.
Mm-hmm. Final break. It's flying by, but I knew it would. Very interesting content with Dr. Bob and Rob. Will continue a discussion on AA on Atlantic Prevention Resources presents Dr. Bob Zlotnick.
Hurley in the morning.
It's breaking news that I can trust.
WPG Talk Radio 95.5. WPGG Atlantic City. WENJ HD3 Millville, a Town Square media station.
Hey guys, Donald Trump Jr. here. Let me ask you this. Does inflation feel worse than what we're being told in the news? That's because the official inflation rate doesn't tell the whole story. Since January 2021, the cost of living has increased by 17.9%. You can't get that money back. But what you can do is stop your losses today. How? By diversifying your savings into a gold IRA from my friends at Birch Gold Group. When you're done, your money will be parked in a tangible asset with a proven history. To see how it works, get your free info kit on gold IRAs by texting the word PROTECT to 989898. I trust Birch Gold. They provide an easy process to roll over your 401k or IRA into gold without losing your tax advantaged status. So text PROTECT to 989898. That's PROTECT to the number 989898 to get your free info kit on gold IRAs from Birch Gold.
Message and data rates may apply.
You're waking up with Hurley in the morning.
Established, reputable.
WPG Talk Radio 95.5.
47 minutes past the hour. We are visiting with Dr. Bob Zlotnick and his distinguished guest, Rob H. Dr. Bob, time is yours.
Thank you, Harry. We're talking today about Alcoholics Anonymous. Alcoholics Anonymous is worldwide, all across the country here, certainly, and in our local area, has dozens of meetings every week in Atlantic and Cape May County. And my guest today is Rob H. Rob is chair of the Public Information Committee and Cooperation with the Professional Community. And so we are answering questions, talking about AA, what it is, what it isn't, how people can get help. Let's talk about that. So if somebody's listening and they have a drinking problem or think they may, or know somebody who has a drinking problem, how can they get in touch?
Well, they can go to the website for Atlantic Cape Intergroup, and that is, it's Cape Atlantic Intergroup. Look at that. So it's capeatlanticaa.org. They can go to that, and there are meetings there that they can look at. There are meetings with the locations, the day, the time of all the meetings. So that's really nice. Even for me, if I want to just say go to a meeting in Sea Isle City, because I'm going to be down that way. Oh, look, there's one at 8 o'clock on Saturday night. Boom.
You can find out where a meeting is.
Yes. The other thing, too, is someone who isn't even familiar with the AA meeting guide or anything, they could just call the hotline. And there's there's an intergroup hotline, and it is 609-641-8855. That is the Cape Atlantic Intergroup hotline.
Right, and if you're in your car and you can't write a number down or a website, just when you get home, when you have a chance, or even at a light, just look for Cape Atlantic Intergroup of AA.
Excellent.
Yep, or AA meetings in Atlantic County or Cape May County.
I know it's anonymous, but is there any idea of how many people in America touch AA?
I actually don't have that number.
They do a survey.
Is that in the millions?
It is in the millions.
I thought, but I just guessed.
And there are 100,000 plus meetings.
Wow.
Just in the United States weekly.
And you mentioned worldwide.
Yeah. As you know, I did my dissertation research about AA.
Yes, I do know.
So I did a lot of research on AA. They do a membership survey every 5 years. They find out, the average age of members, how many meetings a week they go to on average, things like that. So, there's a lot of information out there, certainly.
Yeah, and, the thing is, it is worldwide because it works. Because it works. There's been not many other things that really work. The 12-step process that your sponsor brings you through really makes it so that you can be whole again.
And the AA 12 steps have been co-opted by many other groups to help other people, like Narcotics Anonymous, founded in the 1950s, was founded using the AA 12 steps. They just modified it, and AA gave them permission, of course. Overeaters Anonymous, Smokers Anonymous, Debtors Anonymous. I mean, there's an anonymous group for every problem, and they all use Al-Anon. I don't know if you've heard of Al-Anon.
Oh, of course.
Al-Anon is a program that was founded by the wife of the AA founder, Bill Wilson's wife, Lois, founded Al-Anon. It's called Al-Anon Family Groups. It is a program, a 12-step based program for family members and loved ones of alcoholics. So if somebody listening wants to go find out some more, they could go to an Al-Anon meeting if they have a relationship with somebody who's an active alcoholic or they think is an active alcoholic.
Captain Obvious, but I just want to throw it out there for you to respond, Rob. Number of meetings that people attend. What is your philosophy about that? When you need one, or go to one every week anyhow? What are your thoughts about that?
That's a great question.
Thank you, Dr.
That is a good question. And so it's really based on the individual. I have been, for 18 years, I've been going to 3 or 4 meetings every week, and I continue to do that. And
now, if you go on vacation, and I don't know how you vacation, but if you went away for a week or you went away for 2 weeks, would you go to a meeting wherever you are, or do you vacation and get back when you get back?
No, I find where the meetings are and that location where I'm going to be,
and you'll go,
and I go. So
much easier with the internet.
Yes.
30 years ago,
if you took a vacation from the meetings.
So we could use it we could use this as an analogy. Okay, so a diabetic needs to take their insulin. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, they'll run into some serious health problems.
And you would need to take that when you're on vacation,
You need to take that on vacation.
Yeah. Thank you for the coaching.
Yeah, for me, my medication is going to meetings, working with my sponsor also. But in the very immediate, it's going to meetings. Going to meetings, interacting with other alcoholics, talking about our issues, talking about the great things we do, talking about the bad things that have happened to us. That's part of it.
Something I also hear, and I think I don't know of an example where I haven't heard this. People know the last date that they had a drink or a drug, and they know how many days or years or whatever it's been. Is that just part of you just celebrate that on a regular basis? What's up with that? I like it, don't get me wrong. I just like to talk about it.
So this isn't something that's actually in the program of AA. It's not in the big books.
But it lives and breathes, though, doesn't it?
But it does live and breathe. So there's something about celebrating a particular year, or, it's almost like we get that recognition once a year. Once a year, I'm going to get recognition because, we're supposed to tuck our egos away and, live life with humility. So that means that when when we have an accomplishment such as I have a year clean and sober, we're thinking we should be not so egotistical. But what that does is it shows the other people who have maybe a day or two or maybe a week that it's really possible to stay sober for this amount of time.
And even for the individual, doesn't positive reinforcement work, and it motivates you to keep it going?
Absolutely does, yes.
How do people pay for AA? I mean, what's the cost? How much, what can somebody expect to have to lay out to join this program?
So I usually hit my wife up for the $1 I need for every AA meeting I go to. So this treatment, so to speak, or this recovery process that I'm involved with costs me $4 a week if I go to 4 meetings.
Wow.
So a basket goes around, you put in $1 if you have it.
Yeah.
It's
just like church.
Just like church, yeah.
Tithing. It's well spent. That's money well spent, indeed.
And what about rules? Like, what people can do, can't do. What can they say? What can't they say? I mean,
so there's 12 steps, like we talked about, but there's also 12 traditions, which keeps the group intact. Because if there was a captain of AA, because we ride on such high egos, it's just a thing we do. It would have really burned out long time ago. So there are 12 traditions which state what we can and cannot do, what we should do, what we can say, all those kinds of things. And being anonymous is one of the things. Back in the 30s and 40s, it wasn't a thing to be an alcoholic, because if you were called an alcoholic back then, it was, that's the guy who can't keep his life together.
It was hopeless.
That was the hopelessness. So they said, you know what, we're going to make this an anonymous thing. So it was Rob H. Yeah. It was Joe L. It was, so that's how they did it. It was Dr. Bob, who was with Bill Wilson.
The name of the group came out of the name of the book.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, it did.
So they named the book. They wrote this book, what Rob's referring to as the big book, called it Alcoholics Anonymous. And that's how the group started, and that's where the name came from.
Very interesting. Now, if you might have 1 year, 10 years, and I'm not going to make excuses. I'm just going to say life happens. Somebody loses a family member, loses their job, girlfriend leaves them, boyfriend leaves them, husband, wife, all this. Something devastating happens, and someone, you use the expression, falls off the wagon. What do you got to start all over again?
Well, you do, but it's starting all over again is one way to put it. But they could also just continue with their recovery. So they would. I like that. Yeah, so they would come back into AA, into the meetings, and they would say, "I had something horrible happen. I wasn't able to use the coping mechanisms that AA showed me, and I drank. But I'm here today to get my 1-day chip, just to say that I'm willing to continue." So they have that. They have. Is this anyone's first day at AA? Does anyone want a white chip to say, that they want to they want to live a life of in recovery. So that would be the initial. But then, yes, they would start over with, if they're with a sponsor, maybe the sponsor would have them start the steps over again. But, I mean, I've been through the steps 3 or 4 times. Just because I do them once doesn't mean I graduated.
There you go.
Because things pile up on us.
Yes.
We have character defects that come back. So, and we have resentments, of course. We all do. We're human, that pile on us as well. So we have to then talk about those things. We have to write them down. We have to do the process of the steps to help us with these things.
I don't know if this is accurate, what I'm about to say, but I'm going to just put it out there in the form of no question's a bad question.
Yeah.
Or a dumb question. If you have 5 years or 10 years sobriety and you slip, I would say this. You showed the longevity to get where you were, and you can pick back up where you were. And then when you have 5 and 10 more, it could be, hey, for the last 20 years, you know, I was solid, except for one night, and I did this. So you don't. I'm asking this just as someone that doesn't know the answer to this question. I say you don't forfeit the progress you made because of one slip up. You redeem from there and you go on from there. But if you had 20 years and one bad night, you've done good.
There's no doubt about that. But we in AA we rely more on humility than ego. So if I had a sponsor, and I'm
just saying that's for the person, though.
Right. So I had a sponsee who, I mean, he had a couple months clean and sober. In the past, he had up to 6 years, and every time he would share at a meeting, he would say, "Oh, well, back when I had 6 years. Oh, back when I had 6 years. Back when I had 6 years." And I had to tell him
that was his crutch.
You need to stop saying that because you don't have 6 years today.
Right.
You have 2 weeks or you have 2 months. So let's talk about that.
Yeah.
So the one slip up that the guy with 20 years had, that is unfortunate. But if that guy with 20 years had any semblance and he was working a good program, he would say, "I messed up last night. I'm coming in with 1 day."
Yeah. Some people don't make it back, though. Some people would be too embarrassed, ashamed, humiliated, and they wouldn't come back. And then they would just keep drinking until they die.
That's why I think the program is important, to welcome someone back in a way that someone doesn't feel like it's hopeless. Because it's not.
Right. It isn't.
No, it's not hopeless. We used to be hopeless. Absolutely. But we've replaced that. Most of us, people who are successful in recovery, have replaced that with a sense of ease and comfort that we get from our spiritual.
And today's 18 years of sobriety for Rob.
Yeah.
Today.
It's beautiful.
Happy anniversary.
It's amazing,
Thank you.
Rob. So proud of you. And in the 4 or 5 minutes that we have, why would you say, Rob, that the program works? Why does it work?
Well, it worked for me. Looking back at myself before I could even spell AA, let's put it that way, in my teenage years, I look back on a selfish, self-centered person, okay? And I struggled. I would never be able to sit here and talk. I didn't have the confidence. So why did it work for me so well? Because I was able to sit down with someone that I trusted, called my sponsor, and worked through these 12 steps. So I had relationship problems. I had a horrible relationship with my friends and family. I had a horrible relationship. I didn't have a relationship with the God of my understanding. And I hated myself. So the steps helped me with those things. Helped me reconnect with my spiritual, the God, what I call God. It helped me love myself again, see and be honest about it, who I really am. And then also it helped me repair all the damage I had done to my friends and family.
Wow.
So having done all that, I came through the 12 steps with a new confidence to help the next person. And this is the thing that really helps me. Help the next person who needs it. Because my sponsor, literally saved my life.
So you pay it forward?
Yes, I do.
And that's how AA was founded.
You're impressive. You're very impressive, Bob. I know you don't want ego building and all that, but you're very impressive to listen to.
AA was founded that way. Bill Wilson, the founder, the original founder, was sober several months, had been helping bums on the street in New York, went on a business trip, to Ohio and didn't have anybody to help because he was out of his element. And he was thinking about drinking.
Wow.
So he called some local churches and said to the pastors, hey, you know anybody who's drinking too much? They need help. And he went and started to help this guy.
Because he needed it.
Yeah. He needed to do that to help himself.
Wow.
That's how AA was founded.
Where he was at the hotel lobby. He heard the glasses clanging in the bar.
Yeah. It was very tempting.
Very tempting.
He was jonesing.
It was delicious, yeah.
Yep. That could have been the end.
Very cool story.
Isn't that? And
give me somebody to help.
The gentleman.
Give me somebody to help.
The gentleman that he helped was a physician who 2 weeks later went to the AMA convention in Atlantic City and got drunk. And that was his last time he ever drank.
Wow. And that was
what a conversation.
And that was the partnership.
89 years ago.
That was the partnership that AA was founded.
Listen, ladies and gentlemen, if you missed any of this, listen to this podcast. When it's uploaded, please download it. This has been a really, I think, impactful hour plus. Go ahead, Rob. You were saying.
I was saying that is, like Bob said, that is how the program was founded. Bill Wilson didn't want to be the head of AA because that would be just like I was saying,
an ego,
too much ego.
Yeah.
So he wanted a partner, and he chose Dr. Bob. So they went in together, and he wrote the book, and the rest is history. But without that time in the hotel lobby, him calling around churches until he found someone. It was Dr. Bob's wife who said, yes, my husband needs help. And he went to see him.
About a minute and a half left in the program. What would you say, Rob, to someone listening? They know they need help, but they haven't reached out for help. What do you say?
Well, I would say come to an AA meeting. Sit in. You don't have no one will pick you to say it's your turn to speak. You can sit in there and just listen. Just
if you don't want to speak,
you don't have to show any ID. You don't have to sign in to anything. You can just sit in the back. And I mean, many meetings are open to the public. Yeah. Anybody in the public can attend and view what's going on.
So that's what I would say. Come in, take a listen, see what you think. And like I said, there are so many different kinds of meetings. There are speaker meetings, step meetings, big book meetings, meditation meetings. There's all kinds.
You know what I've always felt too about the program, and I only know what I hear, but that there's a lot of integrity because you could have doctors, lawyers, judges, police officers, whoever, and they're trusting that, and maybe even well-known people, that people are not going to out them and things like that. Seems to be integrity.
It is. Now, I have an attorney, I have a police officer, I have a construction worker.
There you go.
So there's so many.
20 seconds, closing comment, Dr. Bob.
I want to thank you, Rob. You did a great job.
Tour de force performance.
We've talked about AA for 20 years here, and the first person who ever mentioned the traditions, Rob.
It was a privilege to listen to you.
I'm thrilled to have done it, really.
Good job. Thank you, Dr. Bob.
Thank you, Harry.
Presented and sponsored by Dr. Bob Zlotnick and Atlantic Prevention Resources. Brian